Hello and welcome to another retro review and discussion, the regular spot on Tuesday night with me, Lance Nielsen from the Outcasts Creative. Now, I'm off camera at the minute. I will be coming on camera, but you're going to have to be a bit forgiving because I've just come from a show. I've just come from doing false accounts, literally live on stage, rushed back from the theatre to do this. And I am eating some chips, which I don't want to eat on camera. So while I'm eating chips on camera, off camera, Matthew Holmes will be my man on camera.
Hello.
As we commence our discussions about both We Were Soldiers and Black Hawk Down, two similar but also very different movies in a way. I would dare to venture an opinion. And there's a lot to say about both films, but I have a little bit of a surprise for you, Matt.
Oh, yeah?
I do indeed.
What's the surprise today?
Well, the surprise today, sadly, isn't one of the Black Hawk Down cast, although he's going to come on another stream. So
okay.
He needs to come earlier because he's got a young kid, so I did try. But, however, due to inside sources, I do have, was sent to me just the other day, get this, a Black Hawk Down shooting script.
Ooh, that'd be interesting.
Let me present the evidence, sir. Sounds a bit like a line from my play. So I have a Black Hawk Down shooting script. Here it is. Now, wouldn't it be interesting to check a couple of scenes in particular to see how they vary from what we saw? So I don't know if we want to do Black Hawk Down first.
Yeah, might as well.
Yeah.
As good as any place to start.
Okay, so do we normally do IMDb scores first or later? I think we do them later, don't we?
I don't know. So we have really got much of a pattern at the moment, but
we're getting there. We're getting there. We've only been doing this a few weeks, this Tuesday slot, but it is a regular slot, so do tune in. Going to be doing these every week as long as Matt. Well, I'll probably doing them as long as one of us is available. They'll be happening. So let me just put on our little banner here. Here we go. Black Hawk Down. Now, Black Hawk Down was released. I want to say, I'm just getting the IMDb page up, but I want to say it was 2001.
Yep, that's correct. 2001.
So I went to see Black Hawk Down at, once again, the Empire Leicester Square, my favourite cinema. And I took about 22 friends of mine to see it for my birthday. One of the memorable things about that event was that Mark Chorner, one of my guests, said goodbye at the meal early and, of course, forgot to contribute towards the meal. That was very sneaky. Yeah.
Got a free one.
He did get a free one. I'm just going to mention that as it was a source of much contention when the split for the bill came, especially as he'd had 3 beers on top of his meal. So, and we were eating in Covent Garden, not the cheapest place on the planet. So we had great seats, cracking screen. I want to say it was a 70mm print again. Really good place to see it. Great experience. Where did you? I think we normally say where we first saw the movie. That's what.
Yeah. Well,
so
look,
where did you first see the movie, mate?
I missed this one in theaters. This is a rare movie from this time period, that Ridley Scott film, that I actually missed in cinemas. I don't really know how or why, but it got by me, and I had to catch this one on DVD for the first time at home. Thoroughly enjoyed it, but yeah, unfortunately, I would have loved to have seen this on the big screen, but unfortunately I missed it. So yeah, it's a shame. I mean, I think what happened is it kind of came out. It's post Saving Private Ryan, and there was, like most things, like that. You know, once Gladiator comes out, all the Sword and Sandal films come out. Once Private Ryan came out, all of these war movies came out, and I think it was just. I think I'd seen so many war films at that time that I'd sort of got a little fatigued, and I thought I didn't get as I just wasn't as interested to jump in and watch it. So yeah, but it would have been a good one to catch in cinema. Obviously, Ridley Scott's films always look amazing. That's one thing you can always rely on Sir Ridley to do, is give you a great looking film, and this is no exception to that.
Looking at the first line of dialogue, and also just reading through the descriptions of the opening scenes, seems pretty similar to what I remember. Oh shit! Did you see that, Chief? We got unarmed civilians getting shot down here at 9 o'clock.
Oh yeah.
No, I don't think we can touch.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then the militia.
Yeah, it looks pretty much like as I remember the opening.
And that introduces you to two key characters right away, which is Matt Ebersman, who is in command of Chalk 4 later in the film, and Michael Duran, who I guess get into spoilers straight away, whose helicopter crashes, and he is taken prisoner. But more on that later. And then we're into kind of Mogadishu market, and the rider looking for the now this bit. Driver leads Atto to the waiting car. Hoot watches, speaking into the microphone into his collar. Yeah, I guess he does do that because then he's got
that's Eric Bana's character, isn't it? Who's spying on them.
And Eric Bana's character, who is an amalgamation character of about 3 different people, real people.
Right. Who in the film was wearing Oakley sunglasses that didn't exist at this time period.
That's interesting. Was Oakley not around before 1992?
Oakley was around, but the style of sunglasses that he was seen wearing in the movie, though, I remember there was a big hullabaloo about it because everyone was like, "Oh, he's wearing these product placement Oakleys," but those Oakleys didn't exist in 1992. That particular style. So
I think it's a well-known bullshit historical fact that if you're a special forces guy in a movie, you get to have Oakley sunglasses from any time period. They're all supplied them first.
Right.
Probably true in terms of being supplied them first, at least. Yeah, that's right. And he's got like a mountain bike.
Yeah, and he's sort of like touristing through the zone, and yeah. Hell of a star-studded cast. Black Hawkdown.
Let's talk about that cast. Talk about props to the casting director for predicting some big names for the future.
Exactly. I mean, what's his name? Orlando Bloom, though not in a big role here, was. I
think he shot this right before Lord of the Rings, if I remember rightly.
I'm not sure. Well, it would have been really close because.
It was in a gap between two of the movies, I think.
Yeah, because when was the first Lord of the Rings? When did that come out? Was that 2001?
I think it was around the same time. It might have been.
Yeah, so I think he did shoot it just post some of his Lord of the Rings work. You've
got a young Tom Hardy in here.
And
most people won't know this, but I directed 2 plays for Tom Hardy's theatre company. And the first time I met him, which was prior to that, I got introduced to him, and he wasn't a big name then. And I said, "Hey, I've seen you. You're that dude that's in Black Hawk Down." And he was like, "Yeah, I was in that. What do you think?" And I said, I honestly thought you were an American." And around the same time as this, he also shot Band of Brothers.
Right.
And he's in like 1 or 2 episodes of that.
Yeah, he is. That's right. Killed. Yeah, that's right.
So,
I mean, it is a who's who of this period, isn't it? I mean, every single one of these actors, you know, British and American, and a bit of and an Aussie, like just they were these faces were everywhere in this time period. So it was sort of like the big lineup of every major male star of the time.
Ewan McGregor and Ewan Bremner, both in Train Spotting. Yep. The story
Josh Hartnett.
Before we get onto the Americans, the story goes, from what I heard, one of them got cast first. I think it was McGregor, and they're best mates.
Right.
And he's like, "I'm going out to Mogadishu to shoot it, or not Mogadishu, but Morocco to shoot this action film." And Ewan Bremner's like, I think it was Ewan Bremner's like, "Fuck, I'll have some of that." are they still casting? And he's like, yeah. And I think he got onto the phone to his agent and got him in the next day's auditions.
Oh,
And
nice.
they got to go together, you know. Also,
Nice. Bring your
so
friends
let's talk
along.
about let's stick with the British guys first. So Hugh Dancy, big name now, wasn't a big name then, quite a small role in the film. Owen Grufford, big name now. He was in the end of the Titanic. Is anyone alive out there?
That's right. He also played Lancelot in the King Arthur film with Clive Owen.
He did,
and
indeed.
he's in a TV series here in Australia that was quite popular. That was shot here called Harrow. So he's been around for ages.
And then you've got
Titanic was the thing that launched him,
of course, who did The Patriot with Mel Gibson.
Yep.
Bit of a connection between Mel Gibson for later. Jason Isaac, because I've met twice, used to have his phone number, spoke to him around the time he did this, congratulated him on the role. We're going to have to get onto the list now. Just sticking with British names. Ian Virgo is a good friend of mine, and he is up for coming on the channel and talking about his time on Black Hawk Down. He was on it more or less from start to finish. He's in the opening scene. He's on the chopper with Everson in that scene right at the beginning where all the people are getting shot. Good to see you, Darth Plato. Thanks for dropping in. Please post and spread about the stream. And Keith as well. Of course, Keith is here. Of course, he is.
Good morning, gentlemen, or afternoon, evening, wherever you are from.
Probably afternoon,
anywhere in the world.
Yeah, indeed.
Tom Hardy, of course, we spoke about him.
We also have Matthew Marsden, who, of course, was in one of the recent Rambo efforts. He's the guy with the cast on his arm, another Brit. Great actor.
Quite a lot of Brits in here. I guess Ridley, being British, always keen to use British cast.
Yeah, absolutely. But he did say of all his films, it was the most international cast he'd ever worked with. I've also met Trevor Etienne, who, of course, plays one of the sort of head bad guys in the film. Very nice man. Long time ago, I met him.
Unlike his on-screen presence.
Yeah, he's got great presence in the movie. Not a lot of dialogue. Young Orlando Bloom, of course, playing Blackburn, who comes to a bit of a sticky situation. And then the only female role in the entire film, here's a funny story, is the woman who's cradling all the kids in that room.
Yes.
Remember that?
That's right. Yeah.
That's the only kind of, even as a featured extra, she's the only female in the film.
It was.
And this girl comes in to audition for me, Sticks and Stones 2001. And I won't say how the audition went, actually. We'll leave that part. But she came in for this casting for my play, Sticks and Stones. And I went to her, I've seen you in something. What have you worked on recently? She did this big movie with Ridley Scott. And I was like, yeah, that's right. You were the woman in the room. Yeah, I thought so. And yeah, never saw her again.
Yep. But she would be the only female. It's very much a cast. It's very much a lot of swinging dicks on this one.
Yeah, and she's not even listed as the uncredited IMDb's either.
Right.
So
you need to get her agent onto that, huh?
Interesting to note that Simon West, who went on to be a pretty big director, if I remember rightly.
Well, he was already directing Simon West. He is the director of Con Air, and Con Air was before this time.
Oh, yeah, it was. Con Air was before this. Of course it was. So I wonder if maybe at some point he was considering directing, but Jerry Bruckheimer produced
Usually EPs, directors who are EPs usually were going to direct it, but they've passed the baton on and they get an EP credit for their work,
And Terry Needham is an assistant director and producer, but he's also a big second unit action director. So Terry Needham would have been your man doing all of those action sequences in the film for sure.
And there's it's basically wall-to-wall action, isn't it, this film? This is it doesn't let up. There's I don't know how many rounds, how much gunfire.
And he's also first AD on Gladiator, so worked with Ridley before on White Squall as well, Conquest of Paradise.
G.I. Jane, Hannibal.
Yeah, that's also Ridley, yeah.
So, at 4092.
Big Ridley collaborator also on Rambo 3, who, of course, we interviewed the director of that. So interesting, these incestuous connections, but I mean that in a good way. Let's look at American cast. So
let's look at the Australian cast. Eric Bana. And moving on.
No, there is one, isn't there?
There's only one Australian in the whole thing.
But I thought, isn't the Special Forces guy that's injured and puts up a bit of a fight? He's got a bit of long hair in the movie. Isn't that a Brit? Isn't that either New Zealand or Australian guy?
Is it Ron Eldard there? No,
Ron Eldard is American. He used to be on ER.
I don't recognise any other Australians in this, and forgive me if there isn't another Australian, but I don't recognise them.
So Brendan Sexton III, some people will recognise as one of the skateboarding thieves from High Fidelity, was also in the film Empire.
Oh, really?
Records.
Yeah, I remember him.
He's a soldier in this. People will obviously recognise Kim Coates from Sons of Anarchy, Ron Eldar from ER.
Kim Coates is actually a really interesting actor. He was in Waterworld as the guy who gets as the crazy outwaterer. He also played a villain in Open Range. He was one of the gun hands of the evil.
I know, and he gets shot like straight away. I love that bit. Such a good bit.
And unfortunately for Kim Coates, he also has a role in Battlefield Earth.
I spoke to Kim Coates in private message during lockdown because we had enough friends in common. I felt I could reach out to him. It's not impossible that he may come on the channel at some point.
Well, that'd be great because I'd have a lot of questions for him.
I'm a huge fan of Coates.
I think he's actually a really, really good character actor, and
he is, and he always does really interesting things with his characters, and he's got a great face for the kind of characters he plays.
Yes, he does. He's I think he's every time I see him pop up, I'm always think, okay, this is going to be interesting.
Now,
and of course, we've got the late Tom Sizemore.
Oh shit! Of course, he's dead, isn't he?
He did. He died this year.
Before we go on to him, Josh Hartnett, I met in person. He did a production of Rain Man with a British actor, fantastic British actor who I can picture, but whose name escapes me. I'm so sorry. Apologies to the actor.
Who did he play in Rain Man?
He played the Tom Cruise role. This was on stage.
Yeah.
It was really good, and they were doing a collection for a charity afterwards. And I happened to go out the door that he was on, and I did actually get to speak to him because I said, "Mate, I've worked with Tom Hardy." And, "Oh yeah, I know Tom. How is he?" And I said, "Well, I haven't seen him for a while, but just wanted to tell you were great in Black Hawk Down." William Fichtner,
he was good. Actor. Josh Hartnett was sort of like the it boy for 5 minutes in this period, wasn't he? He came out of the Virgin Suicides, and he was in Pearl Harbor, of course, around the same time. But he very quickly vanished again. And although he's been working, he never really hit the heights of fame that he was heading for. I think this is probably one of his best films.
He's done a lot of theatre. Good on him for doing that, because I think that's a good thing. And he's done quite a few independent films. So I suspect he's probably quite comfortable with where his career is at. Not every actor wants to be in a Marvel movie, and not every actor needs another 7-bedroom house in Malibu when they've already got 3 elsewhere,
Yeah.
So maybe he's happy with that. Now, we'll come back to Tom Sizemore. William Fichtner is an actor that I really like.
He shows up in everything, doesn't he? And he's always very intense actor.
Very intense, very interesting. I love the fact that on the making of, he turns around and says, "Oh, on this movie, we really got to have fun." Now, I've just seen our other guest is here, the Inside Man.
Inside Man.
Inside Man is here. Are you there? Can you hear us?
Inside Man.
I'm here. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, we can. It's definitely not because of you that we got a copy of the script. Definitely not. There's a true story, Inside Man, that you can tell us when we finish talking about the cast, about you in this film. We'll come to it in a bit.
Yeah,
because,
no
of course,
problem.
The Inside Man has got an inside story. So, yeah, William Fichtner, big fan of his. Are you a fan of his, Inside Man?
Very much so. Yeah.
Great actor.
Yeah.
Have
Fantastic
you ever
actor.
met him in person? I have not.
No,
met
I haven't. No, not in person. No.
him.
No. I mean,
No,
this really is an amazing cast. This
Yeah,
is
we've just been saying
this
that.
is a
Yeah,
pretty
it's
stellar lineup.
it is. It's a who's who of the turn of the century male actors, isn't it? It really is.
Yeah, fantastic.
I guess it's I guess every single male actor of the time would have been hounding their agents to get me on the new Ridley Scott war movie, or I'll fire your ass. So I mean, because he was fresh, this was the next film he did straight after Gladiator, and it was right on his heels.
Yeah.
It's like he didn't even take a breath, and then he was onto Black Hawk Down. But interestingly enough, did not bring anyone from Gladiator over to this one, did he?
No, there was
not even
none at
not
all.
even Tommy Flanagan, who played like Crow's kind of number 2, the one that gets like hung off the horse.
He didn't bring anyone over, but obviously brought all his production designer and music and regular crew over, but no cast came from Gladiator from this one.
There are 2 amazing casts in this deceased, so we'll talk about them now. Tom Sizemore, of course, who we lost only a few months ago.
Yeah.
I still find it hard that to process that he's gone. Actually, he's like a sort of James Gandolfini age.
Yeah.
Great actor, very troubled man.
Yeah, he had some personal...
had his demons.
Yeah.
But a terrific actor. Like everything he did, he was so intense in, and he played the hard nut well. Maybe because he was a bit of a hard nut himself.
I loved him in Heat.
Yeah,
we've definitely got to do a Heat stream, guys.
Yeah, I think Heat could definitely be one of the best things he's ever done. And of course, Private Ryan was just amazing.
Yeah. Well, we can't pair Heat with Saving Private Ryan, but we'll pair it with something. We need another heist movie and Heat together. That and a sort of action heist movie. Rennie is one of the Drinkers moderators. Good friend of mine.
Rennie?
I've met more of Drinkers moderators in real, in reality, in person than anybody else. And I've met Rennie and went for a pizza with her in America. Rennie, if you want to come on the stream, let me know and I will drop you the link privately. So, and then let's talk about the late, great Sam Shepard.
Yep. Sam's gone.
Playwright, producer, astonishing actor. Liked his alcohol, but he's really good in this movie. He completely underplays his part perfectly. Pitch perfect performance. Doesn't need.
Yeah, he does. He doesn't play the growling, stupid sort of sergeant major guy that's making bad decisions. You can tell he's this man trying to do his best in this chaotic position, and he does it really well. He's one of the greats.
His line I always remember: "We just lost the initiative." Now, I don't know how to pronounce this guy's name, but he's played bad guys in a gazillion films. So I remember
he turns up everywhere.
He was one of the main bad guys in the first season of 24. Zeljko Ivanek, would that be close to the mark, perhaps?
Don't know.
I'd say that's close enough.
I like him as an actor. He's very solid. 112 credits on IMDb. Always plays interesting characters. He must be a nice guy to work with because he gets great parts.
Yeah, and he's in so many TV shows and movies. He's always turning up, and of course, every time he turns up, it's always, "Hey, it's that guy."
I'm willing to bet that he's also a great stage actor. Now, talking of, "Hey, it's that guy," it's, "Hey, it's that older ginger guy." Now, this guy was standing in a line behind me in LA in a bookstore, and I was talking about my Kent State movie because I was out there pitching it to the person who was serving me, and I caught him eavesdropping on me, and I went, "It's that guy," but I didn't know his name, and I didn't want to say, "Hey, you're that guy in that thing I saw one time." But he must be a nice guy because he's always getting work. as well.
Yeah.
Mm.
I recognize his face from other things, but again, yeah,
I think it's in his contract that Glenn Morshower has to play parts with an American pin flag on his lapel, because he certainly does that in quite a lot of roles.
Yeah.
I remember.
Typecast.
I want to say that he was in the Waco TV movie, not very accurate, that they actually shot while the siege was still on. Now, there's a couple of actors in this that are unknown that I think are particularly good. So while we're still on cast, I want to give them a shout out. Charlie Hoffheimer is particularly good in this film. He's an American actor and producer.
Oh, yes. He, I recognize him from The Village. He was,
Right.
he was the guy at the end in The Village that when he's in the Jeep.
Look at him now.
And
24 Legacy. I wouldn't have recognized him now. I'll tell you now. Because his character dies, I think, in Black Hawkdown.
Yeah, pretty think so. Yeah.
So he's the one that they're trying to. I don't know if it's Twombly they're operating on, but I think because I remember his character's face draining of blood. Danny Hooch, who plays Pillar, is like the first guy to get killed in the show. We don't get to spend a lot of time with him, but he does a pretty good role. Curious, he's at 52 credits. Last one, 2022. Also in the TV show She's Got to Have It. So nice to see he's still working.
Yeah.
Strikes me as someone who's probably got a stand-up comedian career. You can see here he's part of a high-octane theatre troupe, creative arts team in New York City's jails and high schools. So that's kind of cool. Solo performance and monologues. Good on you, Danny. That sounds like a great little sideline to be doing. Let's get the main.
There wasn't really any bad performances in the film from memory. Everyone seemed to be on point.
No.
Very much on point.
But I do like looking at the people in the smaller roles. Now, Johnny Strong was on Facebook for a long time, and I got to chat to him at length about Black Hawkdown, and he's now got a production company, and he makes independent films. He has recently made a film about a special forces unit in Daylight's End. Is a great little independent vampire film that I really love. I highly recommend it. He produced it. He's in it. I can't remember if he directed it, but he's got a little team of 3-4 guys. They work together. He's just done another movie that's not on IMDb yet, maybe because it's not distributed. It's called something like, Task Force 41 or Zero Foxtrot 7, something like that. It's like a code name for a special forces team. And actually, this trailer that's running now, this is the trailer for the movie I'm talking about. So it's kind of like a mini Black Hawkdown. It's an independent film. I think it's mountains of Afghanistan again. He gets separated from a unit. It's kind of, they're trying to get him back. I quite like the trailer for it. It looks pretty good. He's trying to make movies outside the studio system. So he's got my support and my vote any day of the week, just for actually, getting on with it. And I got to have a chat with him. I think he's made 4 films like that now. So, Mr. Strong, if you want to come on the channel and talk about this film, I would love to have you. He went off Facebook. He's sort of like, but he's got his own brand of combat knives.
As you do. Yeah. As any sensible Australian would have. Well, absolutely. We haven't mentioned Nikolai Coster-Waldau, who's in all of his scenes with. That's right, because they're the 2 guys that go in, don't they?
Yeah,
they go in to help.
That's a particularly good scene.
Yeah,
I mean,
so you got Australian, Danish, English, American. Yeah. It really is a mixed Welsh, mixed bag, I guess. So yeah.
Yeah, I mean, there's a couple of other people I don't know. Chris Beetham. He's American. Yeah, kind of recognize him. We've got Jeremy Piven in there, who does a lot of comedy. Was in
he was obviously the agent in that TV show, The Entourage.
And he's also in
was he?
He's in Grosse Point Blank with
he played Ari Gold in Entourage, the agent.
Right, okay, yeah.
And he's also in one of my favorite movies, Judgment Night, with Emilio Estevez. One of the 4 friends. Yeah, I love Judgment Night.
Isn't that directed by the same director that did Predator 2?
Correct.
Yeah. Yeah, that's not a bad film. That it kind of like didn't
Yeah.
do very well, went straight to video, but it's not a bad film.
No, I think it's actually a very good film. I could ask Cuba Gooding Jr. to come on.
Oh shit! Yeah, let's do that.
Actually, no,
I
I'm
keep
kidding.
forgetting
I
that
could
Max Powers with Cuba.
I could ask him, but no. The guy's Cuba Gooding's. Yeah, no, he's crazy. Forget about it.
Dude, we're live. Dude, we're live. We're live.
I've had yeah, several dealings with him, and I don't think I'll have any more.
Okay, moving on.
Yeah.
All right. Ty Burrell.
Let's just remember for who he was, not what he is.
Oh, look,
Yeah.
the dad from Modern Family. I forget. He comes in as the medic. He's like, okay, guys, I'm going to set you up with a couple of margaritas. Remember that? He lands as the medic to the first helicopter crash site.
Oh, that's right. And
Yeah.
he goes into that
Yeah,
room.
yeah.
Yeah.
So there's an actor here that I've not identified. Let's just check these two in case it's one of them. And I'm trying to work out. I don't think it's Boyd Kessner. Still like he looks like 40 actor credits, 2023, still working. Good to see. Like to see that the sort of smaller names are still in the industry and still working. Jason Hildebrand, I've seen in some other things. He's a very good actor. Only got 16 credits, but 2018 to 2019, so maybe he hung it up in the pandemic. But he's a good actor, so don't quit, man. But the guy I'm trying to identify, let's see if we can get a still, is the Special Forces op who, at the first crash site, he survives the crash and he's really, really fucked up. He's really badly wounded.
Yeah, I know the guy. He's in the list. You've missed him. I know.
Yeah. So who was he? What's his name?
Well, go back to the actors list.
Oh, hang on. Let me just see if there's a still of him. Let's just go through these stills. See if there's a still of him. Hang on.
He's got a strange name.
Is he that guy behind Eric Bana? I think it's that guy.
No,
he has kind of longish hair though, doesn't he?
Yeah. It's not that guy. He's the guy who plays he plays the father in 8mm. He plays the dad with the blonde hair in 8mm. Who
is that? The same actor?
Who's the father of the blonde girl in 8mm? I can't remember his name exactly, but I can show you who he is in the list.
Well, that'll help. That I think that will be the equivalent.
There it is. Go back up. Go back up. There it is. Ron Eldard.
No, dude, not the same actor. He's one of the pilots.
Yeah, he's all wounded and screwed up.
No. He's the wounded pilot in the second helicopter crash. They give him the MP5. He's got a broken back. He can't move. Not the actor I'm talking about. So the actor I'm talking about is one of the Special Forces guys on the chopper. He's not a pilot. He's got long hair and he survives the crash, but he's really fucked up and he's holding him off and he's really badly wounded. He gets shot a couple more times. And then one of the little birds comes down, lands a few more guys. And that's when they drop off the dad from Modern Family, who comes in to try and fix up the people that have survived their injuries. Because I think a couple of people did survive that crash. The pilot, and I think the co-pilot died. The crew chief, and I think the second crew chief survived the initial impact. One of the Special Forces guys died on impact. One survived. He got badly wounded, and he later died of his wounds. Now, that actor, I haven't been able to identify. He's only got a small role, but he's great in the film. I like him. And I'm trying to work out.
I can't recall his face without seeing the movie again.
I don't know if I've got the movie on here without putting up surreptitious links, which probably we shouldn't. I do own the movie on Blu-ray and DVD, and I've got the extended box set, which I'll bring over. Which is, by the way, this box set is better than any of the Blu-ray editions available. It's got more stuff.
The Blu-ray edition that they bought out was pretty lackluster. They just sort of slapped the movie on it and didn't put much else with it, which was a bit sad in the era of Blu-ray.
Well, this is one of the reasons why I don't get rid of my DVDs. Because when they transfer them over to Blu-ray, they really
not everything comes with it.
Yeah, nothing.
This is This is the 3-disc set.
Yeah, got that.
There's a book in it. You get a booklet of some sort. One of the discs is missing because it's currently in my Xbox because I watched the film again the other day. I also watched When We Were Soldiers on the other day, so I've watched them both recently. and I got that tidy package for the nice price of £4 from a charity shop.
Well done.
So that was a particularly good purchase. I am still eating my chicken, so I'm going to go off camera. But sorry, guy, I haven't eaten anything like all. I came straight in from the play. You got to forgive me. But okay, this is our mission. We have to find out who this actor is. So I'm going to just look at the stills again and just see if he's in one of the stills. Has anybody got access to the movie and they can have a quick look? Because I can tell you exactly where he appears. And I can even give you a time code. So hang on. Do you know what? I'm going to find him. And I'm going to put the link in private chat. And then you guys can have a look at that link and you can tell me if you can figure out who the guy is. Now I can't find the bloody link. Is it that one? No. Okay. Well, maybe that's not going to work. Let me see if I don't know. He might be. You know what? He might be in the trailer. So I guess we could put the trailer on, as seeing as the channel isn't even monetized yet. I'm just going to have a quick look through the stills. Why don't you talk about the rest of the cast? Is there anyone in it that we haven't mentioned that you think deserves a mention?
Probably the only one we haven't really talked about too much is, of course, Eric Bana, who's the only Aussie to make an appearance. And
he's my favourite character in the movie, by the way.
And old Eric Bana was, I think this was after Hulk, and but I think it was before Munich. And it was when Eric Bana was really just starting to take off in Hollywood. And that's, you got to understand that for Australians, it was pretty amazing to see Eric Bana become what he became in Hollywood, because to us, Eric Bana was a comedian. He was
was he?
Eric Bana was part of Australian television comedy,
right?
And he would do these skits on various TV channels. He would have these. He had a character that he would do quite regularly called Poiter, and he was kind of like this Australian dude. His name was Poiter, and he would always do these, and he'd sort of say really stupid things in his Aussie accent, and he was actually really funny. And so all of Australia knew Eric Bana as this really funny, wacky comedian, stand-up guy who would do skits. And then all of a sudden then he turns around and he does Chopper, which
amazing film.
Which totally took everybody by surprise. Like everyone was like, "What? He's playing this one of the most infamous criminals in modern Australian history," and he knocked it out of the park. And everyone was like, "Okay, this guy can actually act." And then he and then all of a sudden he's the Hulk.
Mate, was the Castle. Remember the Castle, the movie The Castle?
Oh yeah.
He plays the boyfriend of the sister, and that's got like a really small role. That was the first thing I saw him in.
Yeah, and he's really funny in The Castle again, because he's coming out of his. That's why he's in that, because he worked with those people who had directed, I think, on the comedy television stuff. And then all of a sudden he's the Hulk, and then all of a sudden he's in Black Hawk Down, and then he's in Troy, and we're all going, what happened to our comedian? He's now this big, serious American, actor.
I mean, similar kind of, I say similar, but kind of similar with Russell Crowe, wasn't it? I mean, with his, let's just say his pop career, Russ LaRock.
Well, Russell was not really very well known here for his pop career. I know he's been playing in bands, but no one remembers him for that. Russell Crowe, I think he's been on the acting. He was in the acting world for a bit in the early '90s, but it was the Romper Stomper.
Romper Stomper. That was the one that really kind of
that blew him right out.
Yeah. Oh, I mean, I love it. I love Romper Stomper. Funny enough, I dug that out earlier. And I got the soundtrack. I love that. That really sort of, it's quite an odd sort of almost well, it is slightly fascistic. That sort of almost march, isn't it? The theme tune to it. Love that film, but you have that a lot in Australia, I think, with these actors coming from pretty much next to nothing, and then all of a sudden they're these major Hollywood stars.
Yeah, they do one thing that gets all the accolades, and then all of a sudden, boom, the spotlight's on them. I got a funny story about Romper Stomper.
Oh, yeah, go ahead.
This is.
I'm going to give you a 2-minute time limit on this Romper Stomper rabbit hole, but go for it.
Okay, you'll like this. This is just a lovely little anecdote about Romper Stomper. In Australia, we had this very famous film critic called David Stratton. He's still around, and he had a TV show.
I remember him.
And David Stratton, when Romper Stomper came out, David Stratton was so offended by the movie because of all the Nazis and everything, and the skinheads, that he refused to. He thought it was a disgusting movie, and he refused to review it on his show. Just refused to even, And he said so many horrible things about the film, and I think he had a swipe at the director. And apparently, at an industry event, the story goes that David Stratton turns up at this industry event, and the director, Jeffrey Wright, was there, and he walked straight over to David Stratton with his bottle of champagne and poured it all over David Stratton's head and walked out.
That's a good story.
So I've always really
in the house.
I respect Jeffrey Wright. Once I heard that story, I was like,
absolutely right.
Tell that critic, pour that champagne over that critic's head.
Gary Bolt in the house, guys. Quick hello to Gary Bolt, also in Australia. He is currently the voice of the judge in False Accounts, our production at
and he says the leading casting director in Oz, Greg Apps. Oh, yeah, I know Greg Apps.
And Inside Man, you'll be coming to see that play, of course, this week, I'm sure, on pain of death.
On pain of death.
Yeah.
Well, you've got no choice, Inside Man. I just have to say, I feel really alone today.
Why?
Because you're black and you're a black screen, and the Outcasts and Lance is just a logo.
But I can't eat this on camera. I really can't.
Yeah, I know, but I'm just saying it feels very.
I'm going to manage
isolating.
one more. I'm going to manage one more of these, and then I'll be on the camera. Everybody knows how gorgeous I look like already. So,
but the only reason that I'm blacked out is because I'm not wearing any pants.
Well, that's fair enough. You can leave it. You can leave it as it is.
He'll be known as the outside man if we. Rennie from America has just indeed confirmed she is an idiot because she didn't realise Eric Bana was Australian.
What? Didn't know Eric Bana was Australian?
No.
Wow. Okay, that's interesting. I thought everyone knew that he was Aussie, because of how his the way he talks is like you can hear his Australian coming through. I mean, I love Eric Bana, but I don't think his American accent's ever as convincing as it should be. I always hear the Australian pushing through it.
Well, now I have worked out that if I look through the script that we were given from inside sources,
you'll find the name.
I should be able to find the name of this guy's character. Now, if you remember at the beginning, one of the characters is doing a sketch of a knight that he says is the hero in the children's book he's writing. Remember that?
Oh, yeah. Well, that's Kim Coates' character, isn't it, or something like that?
No.
Oh, no, it's a different guy. Yeah.
Kim Coates is talking to the guy, I think. The guy's the long-haired guy who gets injured in the chopper.
Oh, okay, yeah. I'm trying to... Okay, I've got to see his face. I know who you're talking about.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
who is it?
Got to try and work out who it is. Now,
that's all right. He's drawing the picture. You should have said he's the guy drawing the picture.
I only just remembered he's the guy drawing the picture.
Yeah, okay. He's there. I can almost see him.
Now, here's a scene. That's not in the film, or certainly some of it's not in the film. After the conversation with Garrison and Atto, do you think bringing me in will make him suddenly come to you, make him more agreeable? You know where he sleeps. You pay for his beds, much less his militia. We're not leaving Somalia until we find him, and we will find him, right? I think that conversation's in the movie. Garrison's then talking to Joe Cribbs, a tall, lean man, a few years younger. Garrison falls in step beside the general, urbane, sophisticated, cruel. Yeah, he's a good catch. It'll take some time, but Adid will feel his loss. I don't remember that scene.
Might have been deleted.
I'm sure time, Cribbs, I'm sure time is something we've got in great supply. Garrison, this isn't Iraq, you know, it's more complicated than that. I don't remember that line either. Boss, most of Washington might disagree, I'm just saying. They've been calling every week. That line I vaguely remember. So Walcott's flying Super 6-1. That's when they go and pick up the guy on the bike. Walcott, Durant, they're sort of talking. Blackburn with Grimes, Blackburn arriving. Yeah, remember that. So we need to get to sort of it's the night before the mission, isn't it? When he's doing that sketch, and it cuts with like the scene with the special forces guy calling home. I think either Johnny Strong or Nikolai Costa.
I've got him. Okay, I know who he is. I'm getting you his name in just 1 second. He played one of the cops in Dumb and Dumber in Something About Mary, where he starts bashing his head. He starts bashing Ben Stiller's head on the wall.
By the way, this guy on the right in this group photo, Gregory Spalida, he was one of the bad guys in The Rock.
So was he?
Yeah, he's one of the special forces team.
Right, okay.
Yeah.
All right, I'm getting you the guy's name. He's one Richard Tyson. That's the guy you want.
Okay, let's go back to the
Richard.
If you're right,
Richard Tyson is the name of the actor. All I needed to see was his face, and he's from Something About Mary.
He is American, is he? Oh, here we go.
He is American.
Bush, he plays. That's him. You see, to me, he looks like an Australian WWF wrestler in that picture.
Yeah, that's Richard Tyson. Do you remember Something About Mary when those two cops are interviewing Ben Stiller and he's admitting to picking up a hitchhiker and they think that they're talking about the murderer and then he grabs him and starts bashing his head on the... Yeah, that's Richard Tyson.
Well done. Well done.
Good shout. Okay, so yeah, I like him as an actor. I think he's good. I think he's good in Black Hawk Down. He's only got a small role, but when you watch it back, it's like, yeah, that guy stands out to me.
Yeah, so he was good. But it didn't show up in a lot of other movies, but not that I've seen anywhere.
He's got 144 acting credits, the last of which is Realm of Shadows. He was in The Mermaid, presumably not The Little Mermaid. And obviously Sally Floss, Digital Detective, which is a definite favourite of the Inside Man. He's got every version of that.
Oh, yeah, I have.
Yeah, so including the ones that don't exist yet. So, Inside Man, why don't you tell us your inside story about Black Hawk Down? Because you were nearly on Black Hawk Down. Tell us what happened.
I was, very nearly. Well, when we were doing Band of Brothers, we reached around about sort of beginning of June, coming up to the middle of June. We had just before the hiatus, we had a couple of weeks hiatus, but of course, whilst we're there, I think we were shooting episode 4, and there was a buzz going around that, this new Ridley Scott movie is going to be happening. This Black Hawk Down, and I knew of the book. I hadn't read the book at that particular time, and then within days, this whole buzz had gone around the whole set, and everybody was on set within a couple of days with Mark Bowden's book in their hand.
Right.
Really want to get on this movie. Anyway, so we wrapped in November of 2000 on Band of Brothers, and we hit 2001, and it was I think it was kind of somewhere like April or May that I got a call, and I was basically hired for Black Hawk Down. So I thought, yeah, this is amazing. Within, I'd say, seconds of me putting the phone down, my phone rang, and it was a very good friend of mine. He said, "You're not going to believe what movie I've just been asked to do." I said, "What's that?" He said, "Black Hawk Down." I said, "Well, you're never going to believe what movie I've just been asked to do." He said, "What's that then?" I said, "Black Hawk Down." I said, "I'll see you there."
Nice.
So we were, all geared up to go and everything, and we had everything ready, all packed, really excited to do this new Ridley Scott movie. And of course, it was all shot out in Morocco.
Morocco.
Ouazzazate, yeah. And within 2 days, we got the call, and we were both cancelled. The job was cancelled. We still don't know why, but apparently there were loads of people cancelled off of it. So don't know whether it was anything to do with budgetary restrictions or anything like that.
Yeah, there was probably they probably crewed up, and then there was probably a budget cut, and I bet that was due to.
That's a shame.
They were probably penciled on a couple of actors, and maybe a couple of those actors might have been on a big fee. It might have been that one of them was suddenly yes, and it's like, well, we've got to cut 500,000 from the budget. Who's this guy? Who's this guy? We can do that. A couple of them.
Yeah, something's got to go.
Yeah,
and it's it kind of it's like cut all the dead wood free.
Damn it!
One of the reasons I've kept this still up, right, is I'm going to tell you now that 75% of the combat scenes that you see in the street, which is most of the action, would have been shot on the set that you can see there.
Yeah,
so you would have either been shooting down that street one way to look like a certain thing, down that street another way, low angles to cut out the Olympic Hotel sign on the right for where that's the place they actually raid at the beginning, and then they would have had at least 2 cross streets going across this. Now I don't know if this is a constructed set or just part of the downtown that was redressed for the film. I think the second. It's not a build. I think these are real buildings, probably in a shooting part of town that were redressed. You said the area of Morocco, it was called, what was it?
Ouazzazate.
That was it. Now, I have Google Earthed this before, and I had a look at, production began in Saleh, Morocco, and concluded in late June, March till June shoot. Although they considered Jordan, they found it too built up. So is that an area within that part of Morocco?
Do you know what? I can't be sure of. I mean, he's used Ouazzazate before. I mean, he used Ouazzazate in Gladiator, and it's heavily used. It was what's the other one? The William Friedkin film, Rules of Engagement. That was Ouazzazate. That was Ouazzazate. Full Feathers was Ouazzazate.
That's a good movie.
Is that the one with Heath Ledger?
Yes, it is. Yeah.
I like that film.
Very hard film to find. Very hard film to find now.
Yeah, I mean that was one that I did. I think we shot that in 2001.
Oh, mate. Well, you're going to have to come back for that one.
There's a story. There is quite a story on that, actually.
Save that for that stream.
Yeah, I know. I will save it.
That sounds like too big a rabbit hole.
And it really is a story. But yeah, I mean, as you were saying, I mean, this I can't be absolutely sure whether that is within the region of Ouazzazate.
I remember looking up, trying to find like roughly the urban area. Now, and I wasn't entirely successful. However, if you look at, I don't know if that's pronounced Saleh or Salale or Saleh. I think probably Saleh. But if we look at Saleh, Morocco, I'll just take you to that in a second. You can certainly see straight away with sort of various images. You can see a lot of the shots from the movie straight away. So, so if we go, this is Google.
Well, it makes sense. You'd much rather shoot
that shot there. That shot's in the movie.
Yeah.
When they're far outside of the town, that's the hill location they use right at the beginning with the supply, and when they see the supplies getting raided and so on and so on. When they do the wide helicopter sweep
Yeah.
over the coast. That's all part of the coast of this area. I do find it.
But of course, it's doubling for Somalia, right?
Yeah. Mogadishu.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mogadishu.
Yeah.
So, of course,
So
the coast
just
is actually on the wrong side, which is funny.
yeah.
So this is
Quickly, was Arthur Max the production designer on this?
good question. Matt, do you want to check that out quickly?
I'll have a look ski.
I've got way too many windows open already.
Because he'd just done. Did Arthur Max do Gladiator?
Yes, he did. Yeah.
But you can see, like, just from looking at this, Rabat, Salale, this is the coast section of the coast they definitely used for the movie and the city and all that, for sure. So, yeah.
But I just wanted, one of the things I wanted to say.
It was Arthur Max. It
was Arthur Max. Yeah, my apologies for coming in late. Virgin went down, so
mate,
that's not a euphemism.
If David McGiffert's allowed to be late, then I'm sure you're allowed to be late.
But the other thing that I really wanted to say was this is such a superb choice of two movies to have side by side. It really is.
I think I suggested Black Hawk Down, and then Matt said we could do We Were Soldiers with that. I was like, yeah,
perfect. They're perfectly matched.
Good
perfectly
pairing.
matched. Really, really good pairing.
Because I guess they're both. I guess they're similar in the sense that they're both about American forces going into an area where they're heavily outnumbered, and they're both new stories.
Yeah. Home territory. Territory of the enemy.
And they're and in a way they're not success stories for these Americans. They're in one sense retreat, defeat, escape. They're not conquer. Which is interesting, I guess, for Americans to make movies where they don't come out on top as hey, they all basically flee.
You guys see this graveyard location with the city of Salale in the background. Now, I have seen this graveyard in several pictures, in several movies.
Yeah.
And I mean, God, what it's kind of epic, isn't it? Look at the size of it.
Yeah.
It is big.
It's almost a city of itself.
Yeah.
These castle gates I've seen in movies before as well.
Yeah, they look familiar, don't they?
Yeah, and you can see from the little street views that we're getting, they're fairly typical of the kind of stuff that we see in the movie. So that's where it was shot. Okay, so cast.
So what do we actually think of the movie? What do we think of the movie?
Well, let's do scores out of 10 at the end of Black Hawk Down. Let's just talk about a couple of other things. Cast are great. Music.
Oh yeah.
Music is really.
It's a bit of an odd one. This. I mean, I was listening to the recording sessions today.
I like it.
Yeah, it really fits. It really fits. I mean, I was.
It's got a beautiful. There's a beautiful main theme or something that's sung.
Well, the funny thing is the main theme originally is an Irish melody.
Yeah, right.
That comes back to the Irish American and the Irish American military history and like the Boston Police and that kind of thing.
Right. Okay.
That whole that is actually from an Irish song.
It does have a very Irish sound,
and the Irish song is on some versions of the soundtrack. You can also find it on YouTube, and then you hear the Arabic version of that. And they've kind of done their own Arabic version of it to fit. I don't know if it's Arabic that's being sung, so forgive me.
Yeah, yes, it is. Yeah,
but it is.
Yeah,
okay.
It is, yeah.
So they've taken that same melody, they've changed it, and they've kind of given it an organic, sort of African feel, and it really works. So I think it's a really good.
Yeah, it really does. I mean, isn't he good at doing the? Sort of transposing from, something very symphonic to something very ethnic.
He was certainly good at doing it back then. I mean,
Yeah.
Gladiator and Black Hawk Down are both great scores.
Yeah, he in his earlier days, Hans Zimmer was very good at almost at world music, like taking the instruments and the feel of music of the time and then infusing it, and so you really get the sense that the music is evoking that part of the world.
I'm definitely not eating more chicken off camera, or I might be. Yeah. So the action scenes. Let's talk about the action. This has that kind of that grain that was very trendy at the time. They use it in Band of Brothers. It's got that sort of gritty grain.
Yeah.
Almost documentary thing. Here it's a bit more poppy because of the
color palette.
The hot. It's like a hot color palette, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's very saturated. Very saturated, but still grainy.
Everything feels warm and sticky.
Yeah, it does. It does feel very oppressive.
It's pretty frenetic, though. I will say, like it's cut exceedingly fast and very. It takes a. After watching it, it's quite a heavy watch, I find, because it is really just wall to wall, and there's hardly ever a quiet moment, except I think at nighttime everything goes a bit quiet for a bit. But it's just relentless rockets and guns going off and machine gunning, and it really is wall to wall action. It almost becomes numbing, I find, after a while.
Christ, I'm sorry, I didn't know this, and I feel a bit sort of wrong if I don't mention it.
I do have a couple of criticisms about the action that I would like to mention later.
Yeah, well, the book relied on dramatization and participant accounts, right? SPC, that stands for Special Private First Class, is it, or something? In American military terms, I'm not sure. John Stebbins was renamed as the fictional John Grimes. Now, isn't John Grimes Ewan McGregor's character?
I think so, yeah.
He was convicted, real Stebbins, was convicted by court-martial in 1999 for I don't want to read the full thing out, I'm going to say for sexual assault charges, and I'll leave it there.
Yeah, right. He was Grimes, Ewan McGregor, he was, yep.
Of his 6-year-old daughter.
Jesus Christ. Mother of God.
Okay.
That's awful.
Wow.
How do you go from surviving this to doing that? I don't know. That's fucked up.
Yeah, maybe got a lot of trauma or something.
Yeah, you just don't know what goes on in a
mind. I mean, just watching this and just trying to put yourself in their, excuse me, in their places. You can imagine the kind of PTSD that these men have come out with. I mean, obviously, it's just you can't imagine it. You just can't imagine it. It was absolutely horrific.
What are your criticisms? What are your criticisms of the action?
I found it a little bit. I think that the Hollywood thing kind of started to come in a little bit, where it's twofold. It's a bit like when the Americans get hit, they sort of they get hit by a bullet. They're a bit wounded and they sort of limp on for a while. Some of them get killed outright. But when they're shooting the Somalians, they just drop like flies. Like the bullet hits them and they're down. And it's a bit, our bullets kill them, but their bullets wound us. And and after a while of just constant, and they're all dropping like flies, but the Americans seem to still keep going. I found that it fell into that sort of thing a bit. Which
have you read the book?
No.
So
I have.
In the book's defense, one of the things because it's a combination of accounts, Mark Bowden interviewed all the people that survived the raid. He detailed versions, and he basically amalgamated that into a really great narrative. One of the things I remember about the book that constantly one man said after another was the Somalis were crazy. It was like they were in a John Wayne movie. They stood right out in the open and they fired from the hip. And actually, if you watch them, they do that in the movie.
They do.
And then you've got a few who are a bit more measured and a bit more careful, like the guy that kills the first American.
Yeah.
He does a very measured shot. It's not an accidental John Wayne.
Yeah.
And you know, that a lot of them said that. So I think that probably was a fair depiction of the way they conducted themselves.
I mean, I know that, you know, up against trained special forces, these guys have the advantage because they know how to move, they know how to work together, and they're trained to use their weapons, whereas these guys are just civilians. The Somalis are civilians with guns.
Yeah.
But it's like they behave with no sense of trying to save their own lives.
Yeah.
Like they don't care about their own life. They just jump into the fray and kill and let themselves be killed.
Well, I wrote a script about a very similar thing to this, about a British Special Forces raid.
Operation Barras.
Operation Barras. I think we had that conversation, didn't we, Inside Man? So I wrote the script about Operation Barras.
I was actually going to mention this, talk about this at the end, actually.
And we can.
But,
Damien Lewis wrote the book about that called Operation Certain Death. And in that, the soldiers guarding these people, and there was about like 300-400 of them, that again, action-wise, they conducted themselves in the same fashion. One of the reasons they did this is that their witch doctors would do sort of voodoo magic on them, and they'd say, well, good news, this has made you invincible to the Americans' bullets.
Yeah.
Oh, God.
And so there might have been a bit of that going on.
Okay.
I think there probably was, and maybe some substances going on a little bit there as
well. That'll give you a bit of Dutch courage. Yeah.
Everybody chews that stuff called cat over there.
That's
you know,
it. Yeah.
Yeah.
But I think you're right. I think the comparisons with the enemy, let's just say in Black Hawk Down, compared to the West Side Boys in Operation Barras, I think there are some real similarities there. I think you're absolutely spot on with that.
Yeah.
You know, I think that could well be the case.
Also, have any of you guys ever gone and played a game of paintball before? You gone playing paintball?
Oh yeah, man! I was in a paintball. I was in a paintball team called the Young Guns.
I was so surprised when I've played paintball a few times that you go in the obstacle courses and you're firing at your opposite team, and just the minute you stick your head out, bang, I'm hit, pummeled with paintballs. And they're paintballs that aren't accurate. So when you see guys in movies walking around and bullets are flying around and not hitting them, you sort of think, I've been in a paintball game and I get hit faster than what you guys get hit. Surely that idea that bullets miss you and hit all around and they're just standing there not getting hit, after a while you start going, oh, come on, you wouldn't survive out in the open that long, you know? So I think it's Tom Sizemore's character. He's like walking around his van, and he's sort of like picking up the next group, and he's just like, "Come on, guys, let's get going!" And the bullets are going ping, ping, ping all around him, and you're like, "Oh, come on, you wouldn't last that long."
I mean, there is one thing that I kind of said right from the start when I first saw it. It kind of felt to me more like a Tony Scott film than a Ridley Scott film.
Yeah, it's very Tony, isn't it?
Yeah,
it's almost like Ridley's version of his brother's movie.
Yeah, it really felt like that.
Because if someone had said this was directed by Tony Scott, I wouldn't.
You wouldn't be surprised.
You'd go with that. I would have totally believed that.
Yeah,
absolutely.
It's almost like he took some of his brother's I don't know, ideas or the look or something.
Well, for all you know, his brother may have been on the set and
almost certainly, yeah.
Yeah, I wouldn't have been surprised.
I've got quite a story about Tony Scott on another film that I worked on.
Which one?
Spy Game.
Which film?
All right, we'll come back to that. Let's come back to that later if we have time.
Yeah.
I want to comment on this photo quickly. Now, this is the point where the two snipers are overrun.
Yeah.
Defending the second crash site. It's interesting the detail you can observe from this picture, because I did not notice during that whole sequence that you had all these African women on the roof chucking stones at those guys as well. And there they are. That's the kind of attention to detail I love to see. And that probably is in the movie for like 2 seconds, but I've never noticed it before. That kind of detail.
What chaos. What a chaotic time.
Yeah, and it's funny because
it's amazing, isn't it?
I mean, it was an amazing act of valor what they did.
Yeah,
but
absolutely.
That guy who was then captured, was eventually traded back anyway. So I do wonder if they hadn't have dropped in.
Mm.
You don't know whether he would have been killed or not, because it's possible that some of the first people that got to him may have just killed him.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's right.
So they may have saved his life and delayed them long enough so by the time they did overrun, the more heavily, ranked military Somalis were there, who then took control and said, "No, we need that guy alive." This is the food scene at the beginning. I think this is when my casting director Sharon squirmed, and because people's backs and things were being blown out, and she's like, "Oh God, I'm not going to like you've dragged me to an action movie." Lance started moaning at me. Yeah, there's Jeremy Piven.
He doesn't last long, does he?
Jack Fitzgerald, does he get killed in the movie?
Can't remember. So it's hard to pick the faces because obviously everyone's in uniform and they all look grimy and sweaty.
And that Ridley Scott made them have their character names on their helmets, which isn't standard operation procedure for the military of America or anyone else. And and the reason he did that was because he said when you put all of the actors in their uniforms with all that clobber on and make it accurate, you can't tell who is who.
No. I mean, that's part of the idea of military uniforms, isn't it? Is to basically to make everyone look very much the same.
Yeah.
Because, you can't. I mean, looking at that picture of Ewan McGregor there for a moment, I was like, is that Josh Hartnett? But no. Because everyone does look the same, really, when you put the camo on and the shaved head.
I think this was part, why Kubrick did what he did with Full Metal Jacket. I mean, you can actually just see those uniforms on a mannequin, and you know exactly who that belongs to.
Yeah, that's right.
Like the peace pin on the hat, and the Born to Kill, and Animal Mother's uniform, and yeah.
So for those people watching who might be wondered how these effects are achieved, because that's not CGI. These are called air mortars, which Inside Man would know something about as well. They're buried in the ground, and they operate in the same way as real mortars. They're set off by a remote charge by a pyrotechnics guy, and they're packed full of
so you have cork and Fuller's Earth.
Cork, thank you. Cork and dirt, basically.
Yeah.
And cork is really good. So those fragments that you'd see there, the chunky bits, that's cork.
Yeah, not rock. So it doesn't
going to do anything.
Blow you to pieces.
It's not going to do people serious damage if it hits them.
And of course, this is so much safer than the old pyros that used to be used. Mainly because when you saw the old kind of pyros, it was always like a big flame blast.
Yeah.
And of course, when you see a
grenade.
It's like a big ball of kind of sort of petrochemical sort of mushroom, for a grenade or something.
Did the American military lend its assistance on this one?
I'm sure they would have.
It was. I think they did. No, actually, I'm gonna say I think they did. I know they did. They absolutely did. 100%.
I know because I know the actors they went and did military training with special forces. The guys who played the Rangers went and did training with the Rangers, and all the actors who did the special forces came back and said, "Yeah, we got to have fun when we did our stuff. Our stuff was fun."
Yeah, I've got a feeling that Freddie Joe Farnsworth was on this. Actually, he was on Band of Brothers and a few other things that I've done as well. I'm pretty sure it was Freddie Joe.
Yeah, well, I'm just having a look at it. So, of course, you got the Night Stalkers. I know a couple of the real people were on set who were there. I mean, there were several things that were heavily dramatized. There were 100 key figures in the book. That was condensed down to 39, and I'm amazed they got it down to 39.
I mean, you got to do that for movies, otherwise you just can't follow.
No, absolutely. And I mean, there are a lot of characters in it, and it's it's not until, for example, until I watched it the second time, I didn't realize it was Kim Coates who got blown in half by the rocket propelled grenade.
Right. It's a pretty chaotic movie. Which is probably why I haven't watched it. I don't watch it a lot on repeat, and I think it's because it's unlike a lot of other movies that have the downtime in war movies and it's very character based, this is very situational based, and so you capture the situation very realistically, but you really don't get into character too much.
No, there's little tidbits at the beginning that set up this guy's married, this guy's an artist, this guy's caring about his men. It's very basic stuff to just try and make you
humanize them.
Humanize them and make you feel the loss of some of the people who die. So you see the guy doing the impersonation of Jason Isaacs' character.
Yeah, I recognize myself. Yeah,
I got a funny story to tell you about that Jason Isaacs told me. Just going back to our last point, though, the 160th Special Operations Aviation Regiment, who were the regiment that were involved in this operation, most pilots that flew the choppers in the movie had actually participated in the historic battle itself.
Yeah, fair play. Yeah.
And Keith Jones is one of the ones who speaks some dialogue in the scene. So I guess he's effectively a speaking extra who was also there.
I mean, who else could possibly do this? You know, who could do it justice, really? You know, and do it as accurately as they did it. But it was, I don't know. I really do like it. I can't say that I don't like it. I really do. But it's not one that I can, come back to. I mean, I've, like everybody, I'm sure we've all got our sort of go-to movies, but this isn't one of them, and this certainly isn't one of the Ridley Scott go-to movies either for me.
I have to say that when I was writing the Pegasus Bridge script, my ex-missus hated watching historic action pictures, and we were like, "What film are we going to watch tonight?" And I knew I was starting work on the Pegasus Bridge script the next day, and I said, "Look, I know you're not going to want to watch it, but would you mind if we'd never watched the film together?" I knew she'd seen it back in Africa, and of course all the Africans were cheering when the Americans got killed. Or the helicopters got shot down or whatever. And I said, "Look, would you mind if we watched Black Hawk Down? Because I actually think it would be quite useful for me because of the plethora of characters. And I want to see the film again." And I just got that 3-disc set, and she was like, "Actually, I quite fancy watching that." And funnily enough, she really enjoyed it that time around. Probably wasn't watching it properly the first time. I actually found it very, very helpful in terms of how much time should I be spending on these characters before they get to go on the mission. How much time do they spend? And the 39 characters, we had roughly the same number of speaking parts, most of whom, of course, were British soldiers, and then there was a couple of Germans and a few French civilians. So it was a very similar movie in terms of structure, running time, numbers of cast, types of action scenes, not so much aerial stuff, of course, but the gliders, of course. But there was a lot of parallels. So I think I watched it twice more when I was writing the script. I found it very useful. Before we move
I
on,
think that's actually very interesting. I think it's a really interesting thing for you to have said, because let's face it, we all kind of use them as our references. We all kind of I wouldn't say plunder, but what I would say is that inspiration, it certainly helps with timing with characters. To see how somebody like Ridley Scott would spend on a particular character, and when you come to the end of a movie and you remember those characters, so we kind of this is movie watching, this is movie making, and it's every movie maker, they employ all of those factors that everybody else has used. It's an education through osmosis.
Absolutely.
So we're absorbing all of these things, all these different factors from all these different movies that we have drawn something from, that have either inspired us or affected us emotionally.
And they've gone through the process. They've figured out, by the process of making the film, they've figured out what works best ultimately in the final version of the film.
Yeah, and they're a really good technical exercise. You're absolutely right, man. You're absolutely right. I mean, they're a fantastic exercise, a technical exercise, I think. Because Sorry, I beg your pardon. Go
No, you go.
on. I think, we all we love movies. Um, we have all worked in the business. We've been on the other side of the camera, so we're not just uh, makers of movies, or that kind of thing. We're also an audience.
Mm,
Um, but I think when you see something that really has got to you, um, or there's such fantastic points of reference. Every single movie that I watch is a fantastic reference point for me. Every script that I read
mm.
is a great reference point for me. And I think, to read and watch movies, for any filmmaker, um, any up and coming filmmaker in particularly, you have to watch these movies from all eras, from all decades.
Oh yeah.
Um, and I despair at, some of the people that I've spoken to, some of the younger people that I've spoken to. My apologies, but when they only watch movies from a particular
Oh yeah.
era, the last 5 years,
Oh,
and
Yeah.
it's
that's a terrible era to draw from if that's all you're watching.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
No,
um,
the lessons, especially the movies of the 90s and going into the early 2000s. There's just such brilliant movies in that period, and there's
mm,
so much interesting ideas being explored.
mm,
And the thing is, these movies hold up today like
mm,
it's like someone made them yesterday. They're as
yeah,
good today as they were back then.
yeah,
Whereas
Yeah.
in the past, you couldn't watch if you're in the 70s and you watched a film from the 50s.
mm,
It was really different.
mm,
But now in 2023, you watch a movie from 1999,
mm,
it's as good as something
yeah,
made today. I
absolutely.
think the craft
Better,
is
better
finally
usually
better.
better than
Yeah.
something made
Mm,
today.
mm.
The craft has actually almost peaked, and now we're at that level. And now we're only getting better by increments. And if anything, we might even be going down.
Absolutely spot on. Um,
So,
I mean, we've seen those progressive steps.
yeah,
I mean, regardless of the technology that's used, the essence of filmmaking has remained the same.
it has.
It's story, character.
And there's no more obstacles anymore. Like in the 50s and the 40s and the 60s, the technology was still evolving, but now there's no excuse for not having brilliant images. There's no
Mm,
excuse for not having brilliant sound.
yeah.
Yeah.
And we've got visual effects, and it's all down now. There's nothing we can't do. So
But
really, we've
do you think that there's an element of laziness in filmmakers today? Because I just kind of
absolutely, because
feel that,
oh,
yeah,
there is absolutely there's a laziness and a not understanding of the craft of filmmaking.
yeah,
Whereas I think the people that were making movies in the 80s, 70s, 80s, and 90s, I think the system, because it was so hard, they really had to become the top of their game in order to
yeah,
succeed. Whereas
yeah,
now anybody can grab a really good high def camera, get some good sound, throw some music in, and go out and shoot stuff.
mm,
But the craft is not there.
mm.
It's just not there. Which is really sad to see, because you're looking at this stuff that's coming out on Netflix, and you're going, really,
Oh,
guys, really,
yeah,
this got through, this
yeah,
script got through,
yeah,
and it's pretty lousy work.
yeah.
And
It's kind of. I mean, I call it chewing gum for the eyeballs.
it
It's
is a
so
bit.
disposable. It's so disposable.
Yeah, like you forget, like a year later, you'll forget you even watched the film.
Yeah.
It leaves there's no visual. Like a DOP that I work with a lot, a guy called Peter Sylvester.
Mm,
Every time we sit down and make a movie together, we always talk about what image in our movie is going to be the one that sticks in your mind. Because if you think of any great movie, there will
mm,
be an image from that movie that separates it from any other movie. So you can
yeah.
see that still and you go, that's that film.
Yeah.
And I think every great movie needs that image. And for example, Aliens, it could be the alien queen descending from the ship. That image, there's nothing like it, and you'll never mistake it for anything else. And I think just little craft things like that have been lost in movies, and now in the making of it, everything's so generic.
Let me tell you my Jason Isaacs story while we've got a shot of him. I can't remember if I heard this in an interview or if it's a conversation that occurred the 2 times I've met him. And I did have his landline phone number back in the day. I used to call him and invite him to my plays and stuff before he moved to LA. And someone said, "So what research did you do for your character? Did you get to meet the guy you played?" And Jason was like, No, I didn't. We went to visit a load of people that were there, but unfortunately he was away. He was on like training exercises or something like that. So I said, could you tell me anything about him? Sure, yeah. He used to sit naked in his shorts and he put a fan in front of his balls and he used to have the fan on his balls. His balls from getting hot. And Isaacs goes, can you tell me anything else about him? Thinking maybe that piece of information was not going to help him enhance his performance. The ball calling technique probably is not going to feature in the movie. It doesn't. Maybe that was a missed deleted scene, but that's a pretty fun fact. So let's. My take on this film is a little bit different from The Inside Man. I probably do watch this. I think maybe every other year. I've probably watched this in the last 10. Watched it again recently. I didn't quite get to the end of it. I ran out of time. But I mean, look, I've seen it so many times. I knew exactly. I got to the bit just before he chucks the flashlight on the roof and all that. Yeah. And most of the biggest inaccuracies in the film are in the last half hour. There's your confluence of streets, by the way.
Oh yeah.
So for the set, I'm going to tell you now that this square area you can see when one of the Black Hawks is about to do their rope drop. I bet that same square area was redressed later for one of the crash sites. Yeah. And I bet the other one was probably over there.
Yeah.
From a film.
Pretty effective use of their space, isn't it? It's quite clever how they do it. Yeah. They can make the world seem so much bigger, but they're really just shooting around the same spot.
They were probably filming in a kind of almost a mile square area, I would say, in the movie. I like it. It's definitely my favorite movie of this time period. So you've got like Green Zone, which I think Isaacs is also in, if I remember rightly.
Yeah, didn't like Green Zone. I found that a bit of a dull watch.
I just thought it was a bit naff. I agree. It had some good action scenes.
I can't even remember the action scenes. I just found the whole movie a bit.
Well, it just doesn't really hang together as a believable plot. It's a nonsense plot in a realistic setting, and because the plot is nonsense, the two don't converge.
It's not a revisit, is it? It's not.
No, I've seen it twice, and I regretted watching it.
It was a bit of a meh film, I think. Green Zone
in the meh category.
Yeah.
I think for me, Black Hawk Down's probably an 8.5 out of 10 IMDb. Matt, your score?
Yeah, for me, I don't watch it as often as you. I think this is more like a once every 5 or 6 years for me.
That's because you weren't writing a Pegasus Bridge film, though. So
yeah, exactly. if I was writing a war film, absolutely, I'd be looking at this. But no, I think it's a fantastic film, beautifully done. It's just a little bit hard it's a slog of a watch, but in the right way, because of it's just how intense the action is.
Yeah.
And when you got a partner who's in the other room and doesn't like machine guns going for 2 hours, it's not an easy thing to find the time to slip it in the machine. But no, I would have to give this one a good solid 8 out of 10.
That's a great scene, by the way, when that guy accidentally kills the dad.
Oh yeah, very, very, very
and
powerful.
That actually happened.
Wow. That's just tragic, isn't it? It's just tragic. But no, it's a great film. I give it a good solid 8 and a great Ridley, another great film in the Ridley canon.
Now, you'd think that this was downtown Mogadishu, but this is actually a shot of Hatfield right after Inside Man moved to that area. And when you went to the corner shop, wasn't this the site that greeted you? Pretty similar.
Yeah.
So, Inside Man out of 10, what would you give it?
Well, it kind of, I'd say it's definitely a 7. It's not my favorite, Ridley Scott film. I have to be honest.
Would it be, guys? Would it be in your Ridley Scott top 5?
No.
No, I can't.
I think it
can't
would.
say it is.
I think it would probably be number 5 for me in Ridley Scott top 5.
Okay, that's interesting.
I mean, Ridley Scott number 1 spot would be Alien.
Yeah, absolutely right. Yeah,
and then there'd be a few fighting for two and 3 positions. But I think,
I think it'd be in my top 10, but I don't think it'd be in my top 5.
Yeah, well, this would definitely. I think this would be number 5 in my. We'll have to do a Ridley Scott top 5. See what we get. This guy looks particularly mean in the movie. Remember? Well, yeah. So, memorable line from the film. Fucking Irene for me. Anyone else?
Not so much a memorable line, but the guy that's always sticks in my mind is the guy that goes deaf. And he has to keep
what?
He shoots him in
his
chest. Because he's gotten deaf.
That's Ewan Bremner's character.
That's right. Yeah, I always found that sort of funny because they get separated and they're sort of together. They're running down the streets and he can't hear anything.
Were we supposed to go to them or were they supposed to come to us? And those guys get left at that corner. And that's the guy. That's Ewan Bremner.
And that's funny because he's always usually a comedian as well. He plays very wacky roles.
He plays a lot of wacky roles. Yeah, I don't think he's actually a stand-up comedian, but he does play a lot of wacky roles. I mean, interesting to note that it was the same special operations regiment guys that did the flying. Because, boy, those helicopters really do fly in sync and formation, don't they, in this movie? That whole sequence when they go out to the coast and then fly into the city. I mean, that right then, when I was watching that, I was thinking, shit, this is going to be a good film. And
photography is amazing.
There's a lot of moving parts in the movie. It's almost, when you think about trying to assemble and put together a movie like this, your mind boggles at how expensive and time-consuming putting something like a movie like this together would be. It just you can't fathom it.
The last time I saw a stall like this was when I went to a reenactors fair, and it was quite funny. You know, you'd walk past stalls and there's like M60s and M42 MGs on bipods, and then there's a gold MG42, gold-plated, and I was like, yeah, man, some people are proper into this.
Yeah, imagine being able to buy machine guns off the street like that. Would never want to live in a world where you could buy machine guns on the street.
No, indeed.
That's
all right.
Not a world we should be living in.
Guys, that's Black Hawk Down. Let's move on to We Were Soldiers, or to use the full title, We Were Soldiers Once and Young.
Yeah, I think it was a good idea to reduce the title for the film. I think it's a little long.
I agree. I don't think it would have sounded like a kind of romance thing.
Yeah.
Now, We Were Soldiers has a lower rating. Black Hawk Down 7.7 on IMDb. We Were Soldiers has a 7.1. We'll get onto your ratings towards the end. Different era.
Yeah, I mean, now into the 60s, not the 90s. So we're 30 years earlier or 25 years earlier.
But similar film for the reasons, Matt, you pointed out before. This is a historical battle about America going to fight an enemy in a foreign country. Where they have a numerical superior advantage, but the Americans have a technology.
And they're coming in on helicopters, different helicopters, but they're still using that technique.
That's a comparison that actually I hadn't thought of, but of course you're absolutely right. Very much
a helicopter cavalry, isn't it?
Very much a Mel Gibson vehicle.
Yes.
I'm surprised he didn't direct it because he'd done Braveheart by then. I think Braveheart was 97 or 96 or something.
No, Braveheart was 95, and
Braveheart was written by Randall Wallace.
He wrote Braveheart.
This one is written and directed by Randall Wallace. Do we think maybe this is now listen, Mel, you are going to star in and help me get funded my pet project one day, aren't you? I have a feeling that might have been a conversation between
Yeah,
us.
it could have been. But I really get the feeling that if you look at Randall Wallace's first feature film that he directed, which was The Man in the Iron Mask with Leonardo DiCaprio.
Yeah.
That's
That is an atrocious film, in my opinion.
Film.
I believe it is one of the worst directed, worst written, clunky, terrible films that's ever been made. And especially with talent like that in the cast is just woeful. And then, so I was very skeptical going in to see this because Randall Wallace was the director. But this really ups the game, but it ups it so much. I do wonder if Mel Gibson was perhaps a little bit more of a directorial force in this than Randall really. I don't know. I suspect Mel had a lot more to do with making this film good than Randall. That's what I reckon, because I did not see a good filmmaker in Randall Wallace in the Man in the Iron Mask, and then
it does feel very much like Gibson's hand is close to the camera, if not on it, occasionally.
Yeah, it feels too competent, and Gibson is definitely a solid director, but I feel that so I feel his presence is there. And look, Mel Gibson is absolutely is he credited as a producer in this in any way?
Yeah, no, I'm pretty sure he is.
And it's an Icon production, isn't it?
Yeah, oh yeah, no, absolutely. I watched this film 2 days ago, so it's very fresh in my mind.
And the thing with Mel Gibson is, if you look at the other films that he starred in that his company produced, Icon, like Payback, the film where he plays that crook, that he very much controlled that film. I know it was directed by Brian Helgeland, but Brian Helgeland was replaced. They rewrote the script. They got another director. Mel Gibson very much oversaw the cut. I think Mel actually has quite a lot of control in the movies that he produces through his company and that he stars in. And I think there's definitely his professional hand is guiding this one more than we realize. That's my opinion.
I agree.
And all the better for it. All the better for it.
I agree. Good old David Macy's here. Oh fuck, I'm late. Sorry. Well, we just done Black Hawk Down, mate. We're moving on to We Were Soldiers.
We Were Soldiers. So where did you see this first, Lance?
Right. So this is memorable for a lot of reasons because I saw this on release, Odeon West End, I believe it was. While it was still a single screen, it was then divided into 2 screens, and it was demolished and has now got a hotel with a screen in the basement. I know, right? I mean, it's a good screen in the basement, but it's still, it's not the Odeon West End. When the Odeon West End was a single screen, that was where I saw Silverado and Big Trouble in Little China, not together, obviously. So I had a lot of personal affection for that cinema. Good film. Now, one of the funny things was I swear that I caught pneumonia from somebody in that cinema because I was hospitalized for it 2 days later, and I nearly died.
Oh wow!
I remember the doctor.
Might have been almost was your last film.
It almost was my last film. Remember my parents being told by the doctor within earshot of me, the next 48 hours are going to be crucial, Mr. and Mrs. Nielsen. And I was like, fucking hell.
Wow.
But I pulled through, and I'm here to lift the tale. But yeah, I don't remember.
Cover your mouth when you cough in the cinema, people.
Well, this is the period in my life when I saw this was in the 3-4 years before I got the brain damage thing. So I only remember the movie actually because I've watched it since. But I always remember that the film I saw right before I got hospitalized was We Were Soldiers. Not for the brain damage thing. That was 3-4 years later. So, liked the film, thought it was good, wanted to buy the soundtrack, couldn't find it, still don't own the soundtrack.
Who wrote the score?
It wasn't one of the usual suspects. It was Nick Glennie Smith.
Oh, Nick Lenny Smith. Yeah, he did The Rock, and he also did the music for that hideous Man in the Iron Mask. He's
Yeah,
actually not a bad composer. His
he's
music's
not. I love
not.
the score for The Rock. I love the score for The Rock.
Yeah, he's not bad, but he kind of dropped off. He hasn't done a lot.
Well,
since.
he's part of Hans Zimmer's film score company, you know, and
Yeah.
Hans Zimmer's now got like this big corral of like younger composers.
That's
But
right.
they're all sort of, it's a bit, Hans Zimmer's become a bit like Invasion of the Body Snatchers. He kind of snatches younger composers with a modicum of success, amalgamates them into the Hans Zimmer Corporation, and they all become part of the Hans Zimmer Orchestra, and it's kind of Hans Zimmer, basically.
Yeah,
So,
there's been a few of those. Klaus Badelt, he was in there, and he was actually the guy who did he's actually the Pirates of the Caribbean composer, but a lot of people think it was Hans Zimmer, but it actually started with Klaus.
now, Melvin Deeply has said, A Bright Shining Light is an interesting Vietnam film you might have missed. I'm going to surprise you, Melvin. I've seen it. I'll tell you why.
I've never heard of it.
My friend Donal Logue is in that movie. Donal Logue, I'm sure he's going to come on for an interview sometime. Donal Logue met Bill Paxton and became friends with him on the flight to go and make that film.
Right.
And Logue was very close friends with Paxton, and I remember speaking to him on the phone not long after Paxton passed. And he was very close to him. So I have seen that, mate. You're right. It's not a bad film, and you're right. It did kind of come and go. And
I've never heard of it.
I saw it because Donald told me that story, and I thought, I've never heard of this film. You can see the whole film. It's on YouTube.
Yeah, right.
Just quickly, I do apologise for disappearing for a couple of moments there. My mic was down, so but it's all back up and working now. So my apologies.
We just thought you were being diplomatically quiet inside. So let's start off in the same order. Let's talk about the cast.
The cast, of course.
For We Were Soldiers. Now, it might not be quite the same plethora of names, but they're definitely, it's predominantly an American cast. It's Mel Gibson. So unless there's any British villains to be portrayed in the film, there's not.
You won't find them.
And I can't remember, Inside Man, if it was you that told me this story, but there's a big story in the book about a British passport holder who actually served in the unit that was there, and he was cited or whatever they say. And he's a big character in the book. And he was in the original script, and Gibson read the script and said that British bloke's not being in it, and he was written out.
No, that wasn't me. No, that wasn't me. But that's really interesting. That's a very interesting story.
True story, apparently. Good source on it.
Good
source on it. I won't say who told me that, but because I can't remember.
Was it just because I don't want a British? We don't want any Brits in the story.
Yeah, he didn't want any British heroes. Now, Sam Elliott, who I fucking love and could listen to his voice all day long,
great.
has the best line in the movie by far. Custer's a pussy.
Yeah.
You ain't. And it's just a guy. The whole cinema laughed. I remember when he said that line, and his character's just great. It's like morning, Sergeant Major. What kind of fucking morning is it to you? And you know,
He says, morning, Sergeant Major. He says, what, you're a fucking weatherman now?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, he has some good lines.
He is brilliant in the film.
I think the cast really does support the film, because I think there is some shoddy filmmaking in it, but the cast really raises it past and sort of masks that sort of, smears that over a bit.
Yeah.
But I did notice, I want to say this carefully. I don't want to be controversial here, but I found that the parts with the film that are the weakest are all the bits with all the ladies back home.
The wives.
Yeah. It's
absolutely.
It's my absolute bugbear. I didn't need to see that.
Let's come back to that. Let's stick with cast. We'll come back to what we like and don't like, but I have a big bugbear with that. Let's stick with cast. Let's do male cast first, because we're going to go down a rabbit hole. We'll never get topics done. So Greg Kinnear, very good in the film.
Yeah,
he's great. He's actually a really good actor. It's Greg Kinnear. Barry
And then-
Pepper from Private
Barry
Ryan.
Pepper. Yeah.
It's good to see him again.
Now, Chris
Yeah, he
Klein, I
plays-
would not have picked to be a soldier in this. He'd done a couple of like goofy comedy movies. He was in Election with Matthew Broderick. Great film if you haven't seen it, with Reese Witherspoon.
Yeah,
I saw him on stage. He was in London doing a play around the time this came out. And I tried to meet him. Didn't happen. But he was actually surprisingly good in this. I thought he plays kind of the all-American. So perhaps not a big stretch for him. But I thought he was going to be naffer than he was. I thought he was good. Barry Pepper, I love as an actor anyway.
Yeah.
He's not been given the range of roles he deserves, I want to say.
No, he had, fortunately, like the other dude, like the Kim Coates, unfortunately, he was in Battlefield Earth as well in the leading role. As Johnny
we need
Johnny
to do a
Goodboy.
Battlefield Earth stream at some point. I tell you what would be good: Independence Day and Battlefield Earth as a double bill. That'd be a good one.
That's a good film and a bad film. We need to put two terrible sci-fi films of that era together and see which is the worst of the two. Battlefield Earth has got to be one of the worst films ever made.
Let's come back to that later when we're on the end. I'll stick with the American actors. Ryan Hurst, Sons of Anarchy, great actor.
Yeah.
Really tall actor. First thing I saw him in was Remember the Titans, which is a Disney true story football movie, but it's very good. I hear lots of nice things about Ryan Hurst in the industry. So I think he's probably a lovely man to work with. He never seems to stop working. I would say that John Hamm is in it. He's a pretty big name now.
Definitely. He Mad Men. He really knocked that out of the park. Obviously, Clark Gregg, who became famous in the Marvel Cinematic Universe as the.
Oh my God, I love him as an actor. He's great.
Yeah, as the head of S.H.I.E.L.D. or whatever.
And he's the one who that's a true story, that he was about to get on the helicopter. He was wounded, and then he turned around. There was another guy that wasn't space with him, and he was like, no, he got off and said, no, let him get on. He's more badly wounded. And then he got shot and he fell forward onto the thing, and they carried him off and he was killed. That's a true story.
Wow.
Yeah, that bit is very memorable in the film. It's very well done.
And he I didn't realize that this film and Black Hawk Down only a year apart from each other in the release. Yeah. So you've got a very similar film, very similar subject, and only a year apart. Obviously, we were coming out of the Saving Private Ryan, lots of war movies thing.
Dylan Walsh has done quite a bit.
He was one of the lead actors in the movie Congo, and he looked like he was on this high trajectory, and then he sort of disappeared, and then now he's sort of in these smaller roles. Like he really went down a tier,
We did a film with Eric Roberts, so you know where you're going when that happens. I'm sorry. I mean, Roberts isn't a bad actor, but he's going through his Bruce Willis phase, where it's like, I'll do that movie for 10K. Yeah, I'll do that movie for 30K.
I always wonder what it'd be like at a Roberts family gathering, and Julia turns up and at the Christmas gathering, and Eric then turns up, and they go, "Hi, brother. Hi, sis. How are you? How's your career?" I just got 20 million for my last. What did you get, Eric? I just got 10K for my last.
I got 10K for my last, but I've done 100 movies in the last 2 years.
Right.
How many have you done?
And she goes, I don't have to do very many.
Unfortunately, that scenario will never happen because I don't think they've spoken for decades.
Okay. They're not talking siblings.
I believe not. Sadly.
Right. I guess probably there could be many reasons for that, but maybe professional jealousy. I don't know.
I don't think it's. I think it's stuff outside of the industry. Let's look at some of the others. Robert Bagnall. He's got a good role in the film. Can't say I've seen him in loads. 43 credits. Last one 2016. I want to look at the smaller actors again. Mark Blucas. Seen him in quite a bit. An American football player, so gets the big physical roles. There's a better shot of him in something called Fix, 2019. Yeah, I remember his nose. Whether that's a good or bad thing, can't say.
It's
74 acting credits, still working.
It's still not like really to compare cast with Black Hawk Down.
No.
It doesn't have the lineup, does it?
We're already onto who are the no-name actors and how are they doing? You know, and we've only had Desmond Harrington.
I get the feeling Mel Gibson's gobbled up most of the money they had for cast.
This is an actor. This is an actor that I really like, Desmond Harrington. He's got a very unusual face. He was in Taken, the original. Dark Knight Rises there as a cop, but he's done quite a lot of stuff. I've seen him in a lot of movies. Now that'd be a good one to do. Joan of Arc with Braveheart. There you go. What a combo.
Oh, you mean the movie that Luke Besson did?
Mila, I definitely didn't get cast in this movie because I was shagging the director Jolovich.
Yeah. Well, that's how she gets most of her roles nowadays, is because she's shagging the director. I mean, she's
let's move
married
on.
to the Resident Evil director. And
dude, I might have to go back in and edit this stream, man. We're saying a lot of things. I want guests to come on here. We've already got Matt saying like Cuba Gooding's a loony, and
he is.
Mark McCracken, 31 credits. Can't say I know him.
There's plenty of news articles that'll back that up, mate. Not my
I like the way you did extra emphasis on the Australian accent there. Now, is this the black actor who gets killed? Sort of, Chris Klein's trying to save him, and they both die. Maybe not. He's only got 14 acting credits.
I'm not sure.
So, Brian T might be the no. Okay, that's the guy who gets his face burned off, right?
I think whenever I think of We Were Soldiers, and I think I'm gonna watch this film. Whenever I think of the scene where he has to push the knife into his face to cut that stuff off.
Cut the burning phosphorus.
Yeah, that makes me put the movie back on the shelf. I don't want to see that today.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then that's actually not the Oriental guy, because the Oriental guy gets that's a guy who gets a phosphorus grenade goes off on his pack, and it starts burning.
The Japanese guy, isn't he?
The Japanese guy, he's the one who gets partially burned by the firebomb drop, the one that lands too close.
Yeah.
And the guy's just interviewed him, and he's got a young kid, and he was all optimistic. And then, like, the same guy, the reporter guy's putting him on the helicopter. Half of his face is all burnt off to a crisp. Makeup is amazing in that scene. I would agree. It's another scene I don't particularly, when it came up, I was like, oh my God, this bit, and it was,
I remember watching this at the cinema, and it was a pretty full cinema when I saw it. And I was sitting right in the front row because it was such a full cinema. I got there late and I had to sit in the front row to watch it. And when that came on, you could feel the entire room just go, it was a total reaction. And I've never really lived down that moment. I think they captured that really, really well.
I guess this is part of the reality of war, isn't it? It's
And of course, nowadays they show that. They didn't show this kind of horror in the 50s and 60s films.
You've got some great Asian actors. I can't say which countries they're from. I'd like to think some Vietnamese.
I think they are Vietnamese.
Yeah.
Where did they actually shoot the movie? Do we know where they actually shot this film? Was it shot in America, doubling for?
So no, it was. It was. It was filmed in, I want to say, Northern California, and they rebuilt the whole place. Let me just double check.
I will say, when watching it, it didn't look like Vietnam to me. Like I guess I've always thought of Vietnam like what we see in Platoon. Lush, green.
I was gonna say exactly that. I mean, this is kind of slightly desaturated,
and it looks a bit drier.
Yeah, it does look dry.
It looks like. I thought, is this a different part of Vietnam or something?
Yeah.
The one scene where I felt it did look like Vietnam was the scene where you follow the helicopters dipping down in the sky. I don't know where that was.
That could be second unit stuff done in a proper.
Yeah.
But there's something that just looked dry and dusty. In fact, it almost looked a little bit Australian.
Here you go. We Were Soldiers was filmed in two Georgia cities, Columbus and Fort Benning. Places in Morro Bay, California were also used in some scenes, and scenes of apartments and homes of soldiers were actually filmed in real So the actual, now I remember reading about this before. So Fort Hunter Liggett, California, USA, doubled for the Central Highlands of South Vietnam, and they built the entire, that whole landing zone and everything. If you look, when you look at it and you see like the tall grass and also the palm trees and stuff, you can kind of see that they're planted, but they planted and they grew that location. It wasn't like Full Metal Jacket where they came in 6 weeks before, they stuck in some trees and then they were good to go. I think that they planted that location like months ahead.
Right.
So the grass had time to grow and so it's a pretty decent stab at it. And I guess then because they were on military, terrain, they could blow up and burn stuff, because I think those firebomb drops that they do, I think they're real. I don't think
they are.
The close-up CGI of burning people, I think that's some computer stuff. But the big long, you see it drop and it's a big long thing. I think some of that, I mean, it may well be VFX charges, but it's the real deal.
Yeah, because it was the aircraft and the actual drop that were CG. So they CG'd the aircraft and the bombs coming down. Yeah,
I think the single propeller, because they had some of the old-fashioned fighters were involved in that battle, because we were still very early in the war.
Yes,
they're real aircraft in that.
Was it 65? I think the film's set in.
Yeah,
65. Yeah.
Yes, it's one of the earliest battles of Vietnam, isn't it?
I think it was the first one. I think it was the first engagement.
Battle of Le Drang, November 14th, 1965.
Yeah.
So T-minus 7 years until Earth meets Lancy.
Yeah, that's just after the French were routed, wasn't it?
Yeah, which is that whole prequel scene, which I guess we can talk about in a minute. Now, look, so Vien Hong, he's the young soldier that's in it. I remember him in the movie. He's a Chinese Vietnamese actor, American, so there's a bit of everything going on there. And then you've got Joseph Tran, MVA prisoner. That's the one they capture on the grounds who says he's a deserter.
Yeah.
And that's a true incident. So he's a South Vietnamese immigrant. So, yeah, I mean, fair credit. Andrew Wallace, French bugler. I bet that's the brother of Randall Wallace.
Probably is.
Producer and actor, known for The Man in the Iron Mask. I think he's a relation, Matt, somehow.
I would think so. There's the chances of him being...
There's no nepotism going on there.
No. So that's the male cast. Should we talk about the women?
No,
I really like Madeleine Stowe as an actress. I think she's wonderful, but I'm sure the actresses in this film are great actresses. But I think their dialogue and their direction is letting them down, not them letting the film down.
Their dialogue is very, very
on the nose.
It's just so. Now we're going to have a scene where the women talk about what they're going to do, and now we're going to insert about racial segregation and whites only.
I mean,
all of that stuff was.
Come on.
Oh, that whites only thing that had me. I think that my eyes went right into the back of my head. I was like, "Are you serious?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Are you serious? You're going to do that?"
So this is the height of the civil rights movement, and she knows nothing about racial segregation.
Yeah, it's so like, oh, white, and I went to the laundromat and it said whites only. And it's like, no one's that stupid. So don't try to convince me that anyone's that stupid. Like, that stuff.
What was that? What was that fantastic piece of dialogue? That.
Oh yeah, I mentioned that to Matt the other night.
Oh my god.
What was that actress as well? By the way, she's not a bad actress. I've seen her in some other stuff. So I'm going to say you can't blame her for that. That's a director's call.
No, it is.
It
is the director's fault. And this is why I think and this clearly that would have been directed by written and directed by Randall Wallace, that stuff. This is why I think in the battlefield where the movie's better, you've probably got a lot more second unit. Yeah. And you've got a lot who are with experienced second unit directors who are getting all this stuff done.
That's got to have been a Randall Wallace scene. Sorry,
but... and you've also got Mel Gibson on the set as well, making sure that whatever Randall's doing and whatever he's being filmed is good. And I think the movie really falls apart in those those scenes with the.
It totally took me out of it. Completely took me out of the movie.
This actress, Simbi Carley, 27 credits, last one 2023, still working. And I have seen her in other things.
The thing is that it should have worked, and it could have worked. It just needs to be done right, because we've seen, the wives back home idea in Apollo 13 and things like that, and it works. Like, there's nothing wrong with it. It's actually a very good way to get out of the action and bring back some humanity.
Apollo 13, they went for very kind of normal, perfunctory dialogue, lots of shots of them with not a lot of dialogue between them. It was very natural. Here, every scene is exposition. Now the wives are going to talk about this. The scene where the taxi guy is trying to deliver the letters, the fact that the taxi guy, his line, "Miss, I'm just trying to do my job. I don't like this job, but I've got to do it." His line's the most powerful line in that scene, because you really feel for him. But
But although, having said that, that's still quite sort of expository.
And it's on the nose a bit. Like, just a look would be enough. Just seeing him feel like, I've got to do this, and let the visuals and the music do its job. But it's just, I think that's because Randall Wallace is so heavy-handed as a writer and a director, which is why I don't think he's really done much else, because I think everyone figured out that he's just a bit of a hack and a bit of a heavy hand.
But I think you're right. This could have been done, because
he wrote Pearl Harbor. Randall Wallace wrote Pearl Harbor. Don't forget that.
I did not know that, and
he wrote Pearl Harbor. So
I took 15 people to see that. Now that's a stream. Pearl Harbor and Tora Tora Tora. That's a stream for sure.
Yeah.
We'll have to do that later sometime when we can do
So I think, unfortunately, whereas I think the screenplay for Black Hawk Down is it does its job so efficiently and so well. This film really does get let down in the screenplay department at times. And it can feel a bit on the nose and expository. Which is a shame. It's a good looking film, this one.
Well, it's really those scenes. I would say all the other stuff works just fine.
Yeah.
And actually, you could have just had, the graduation scene where all the wives turn up.
Yeah.
You could have just had all of them being introduced there, and some scenes with each character there, and then some farewell stuff all in the same bit. That would have been all we would have needed. And then maybe just the scene with the taxi driver.
Yeah.
I think that would have been enough, those 3 bits.
Yeah.
Because really, this is a film about the battle and about the unit and about the first use of air cavalry of its type ever.
I mean, there is something that I do quite like about it, and that's the non-bias. It's not, I do like the non-bias.
The NVA, they're not portrayed as. I like the juxtaposition between Gibson's command post, and then we cut to the command post of the NVA talking about the creek bed. Cuts back to Gibson. I'm telling you, that creek bed is vital. It's vital. It's vital. You got to hold it. And then it cuts. That one thing I found about the film that I thought was really good, and again, this was something I was keen to implement in Pegasus, was I understood the geography of the battle.
Yeah.
His headquarters is here. Up on that ridge line, that's where Chris Klein and his guys are. Somewhere over there, you've got that creek bed, and that then links into that other place where you've got that knoll over the hill where those guys are stuck. I kind of could picture it all together. I could kind of follow the battle. I realized where people were, and I think fluid geography and explanation of geography when you're depicting an event like this, that's really important, because otherwise it becomes a series of gunfights. You could tell how heavily this movie influenced your mate's movie, Matt.
Danger Close.
Danger Close, thank you.
It's very, very similar kind of movie.
Good film, Inside Man, by the way. Much smaller budget, about a smaller battle, but very, very well done. And he really went for the same thing. Names of places, times.
Yeah.
this unit's here, this unit's here, this unit is now supporting this unit, and and I don't mind that. I like that because I can follow the narrative of the battle.
Yeah,
and you have to. Otherwise,
got a
like
lot
you
of
said,
characters,
it just
different
becomes
locations.
gunfire.
Yeah,
and this is called Danger Close.
yeah.
The movie's called Danger Close. It's about one of the
battle
battles in Australia.
Yeah, Australian
that fought in Vietnam.
Yeah.
Australian soldiers in Vietnam, and they ended up getting pinned down and trapped by a lot of Viet Cong, and yeah, it bears a lot of similarities. That sort of outnumbered, outgunned, and the Australian helicopters coming in to get him and save him.
Didn't you say we might be able to get that guy on the channel sometime? Might be open to that.
I could ask Kriv. He may very well come on and talk about it. If I ask him, I can certainly reach out to him.
I'm a big fan of the movie, so
I'm gonna have to get it.
If he comes on, I will definitely buy the Blu-ray.
Yeah, yeah.
I'll ask Kriv if he'll come on and do a talk about it. I'm sure he'll like to talk about it.
Favorite character in the film?
Oh, it's got to be
Sam Elliott.
Sam Elliott. He stands out
for me. So
I mean,
3 for 3. Custer's a pussy, so you wait.
I think Mel Gibson's characters. Mel Gibson's normally, I don't know. It's not my favorite role of Mel's, really.
His character's very white picket fence, one-dimensional, slightly older all-American guy, solid leader. His flaws are he loves his job as much as he loves his family. I wouldn't say more than they're quite keen to point out what a family man he is. There's a lot of shots of family.
Yeah.
And, and he's straight back to them at the end of the movie.
Yeah. But he's pretty hard line, pretty straight down the, there's not a lot of nuance.
I just about to say not a lot of nuance to the character. No, he's pretty black and white. Works for the film. How Moore, I think, was pretty happy with the depiction.
Okay. I think he was quite sort of. I mean, every time I saw him in this, his mouth was open and his eyes were wide.
Yeah,
and it just felt like that was his go-to expression on this.
Yeah, he's quite sort of. I think this movie, unlike Black Hawk Down, has a little bit more of that American chest beating, flag waving sort of patriotism that it feels a little bit heavy-handed. Whereas, you get a great sense of that in Black Hawk Down. You got a sense of camaraderie, like we do not leave a man behind, but it didn't feel like America,
Yeah. Because it was a film about a fuck up, and it was pretty transparent about the fuck up elements.
Yeah, and
this is a bit more like we're in over our head, but we're gonna win.
Yeah, and it had that sort of I'm going to be the first one down, and I'm going to be the last one off. And and it had
I didn't mind that sort of full circle segue. I think for me, apart from the scenes with the wives that we've mentioned, the thing I found the weakest in the film, actually for me, was the final battle sequence, which was fixed bayonets. Suddenly the Americans charge. You've got the music. The NVA are all lining up to meet them. It looks like it's going to be a slaughter. Suddenly the helicopters appear, gun down all these guys, and they charge forward. And if that was going to work in a tactic, it would be used in wars from that point onwards. That did not happen.
Yeah, it did kind of feel a little bit like a Deus Ex Machina.
Yeah, a bit Deus,
When I, as soon as I could, I read the history, and I'm like, where's this bayonet charge that they did that was led by Hal Moore? Didn't happen. And just to clarify on the facts, I'll read it out to you. The film is not entirely historically accurate. For instance, the film depicts a heroic charge under the command of Lieutenant Colonel Hal Moore at the end of the battle that destroys the Vietnamese reserve, effectively ending the battle in an American history, a fact that the director noted in his commentary. In fact, there was no such heroic charge in the book. The North Vietnamese forces were not destroyed, although Moore did report 834 enemy bodies, 1,215 estimated KIA, 1/3 of the enemy force.
So I think as soon as they left, the Viet Minh just came straight back in. That was it.
Yeah,
They,
basically.
you know, that was basically it.
So it was the first clash, and they pulled back, and then the Americans pulled out. Both sides claimed it as a victory. In fact,
Yeah.
but
I agree. I think that does feel a bit Deus Ex Machina, and it just feels a bit. Again, it's that sort of Hollywoodization.
Yeah.
I think the bit that really didn't work for me, of all of it, outside of the corny back home stuff, was there was this moment where the photographer starts taking all these photos, and the movie goes black and white, and
but they're not the real photos. They're not the real photos. They're the photos of the actors. And I was like, are we going to see the real photos now? And I watched that sequence again closely, and I realized that at least 50% of those stills are stills of the actors who are in the film. Right. So I don't know if they're mixed up, but that doesn't work. Either show us the real pictures, or
agree with that.
All fake.
Absolutely.
And if you're going to go all fake, you might as well not show them then, and just have him snap pictures.
Yeah, and look, there's nothing wrong with having the guy have his moment of doing it.
No. But
it was the movie all goes to black and white.
Yeah, and then there's that music, and he's all kind of traumatized, taking pictures.
Yeah, and the camera's Hollywood. And for me, it was this is again where I think Randall Wallace is just not a good director. Really, is that there's nothing else in the movie like this. It's like this whole stylistic tangent that's completely unlike anything we've seen in the rest of the movie. We haven't established this type of filmmaking or thing in this movie, and then all of a sudden it does it, and then we never see anything like it again.
You could intercut it with the and make some kind of strange rap sequence with the backing track.
It just didn't tonally fit the rest of the movie.
No, I agree. It kind of had a surreal element that felt very out of place.
Yeah,
I wasn't keen on that bit.
No, you can't just do that in a movie. Just suddenly go, okay, we're going to do a whole different filming style. We're going to go black and white. We're going to put it. It jars with everything else, which felt, I guess, a bit more real.
I suppose one of the reasons I like the film, and I will rewatch it again. For me, it's the flip side. It's the one every 5 years. But there's 5 or 6 moments in it that I think are really great. One of them is everything to do with the platoon that's cut off, including that final sequence where the hand comes up is really chilling. The way that they constantly, at one point a flare goes up and the guys are literally right on top of them. Yeah. And, and several scenes like that, the way the artillery is so close to those guys, all of that stuff, you really feel like you're there with that platoon. The lost platoon, they're called in the book. All of the stuff with them, and that's Ryan Hurst's guys. And I've seen the interview with the real guy that Ryan Hurst played. That stuff, brilliantly handled. I feel like we saw the real deal with that. Then there's a couple of other moments that I feel are crazy but great. Pissing on the mortars, that definitely happened. That happened in World War II as well. Yeah. There's the scene where the young soldier who I showed the image of earlier fixes the bayonet and charges into the main command post. And they did attack that command post head on. And in fact, you've got the area with all the wounded, and Sam Elliott comes in to pick up a weapon and fucking defend yourself. And there's a shot of 2 wounded guys back to back, both with arms in bandages, knowing they're going to depend on each other to survive. All of that stuff, really well handled. Suddenly, Mel Gibson, the guy with the bayonet's coming right up to him, and he just happens to turn around and he shoots him with the rifle load down straight through the head. A bit filmic, but still felt very believable. All of that stuff I really liked, and the bombing runs. So it
does have its good moments, definitely. Yeah. And it does depict battle quite ferocious.
The action, I would say, for the most part, the action is really well done. Again, probably,
and I think that's probably because it's second unit. It's probably really solid second unit directors doing that stuff.
Let's have a look and see if we can see who the second unit director was, because I'm kind of curious to see.
Because there was a maturity and a competence to that side of the film that just...
You're really trying to make enemies on this stream, Matt.
I just think that incompetent directors shouldn't be working in the industry. I think they should be just go do... You're not a director. Go do something else. If you're proven that you can't do it, and I think Man in the Iron Mask proved he couldn't do it, don't do it. You know.
Oh, you ain't. Of course, we know who the second unit director was, don't we, Matt? We interviewed.
I thought it was that guy.
Alan Graff. Of course,
Alan Graff is
Was it?
probably.
Was it really?
Alan Graff. Yeah, we
This is
interviewed him. And
Yeah,
yeah,
he
said
mentioned it.
He said he shot most of the action.
And that is why the
you-
action's better.
Yeah. And a lot of the time he was shooting all that battle stuff, and he talked to us about it. Remember, he talked about the big set that they built and how impressed he was. I
Yeah.
totally forgot. Dude,
did you say you interviewed him?
We
interviewed Alan Graff.
Yeah, me and Matt interviewed him about 6 weeks ago.
Did he do Broken Arrow? Was it Broken Arrow?
Yeah. I think he was on Broken. I think he did some stuff on Broken Arrow.
He's done almost all the Walter Hill movies.
Yeah.
He's done a lot of Burt Reynolds films.
Yeah.
Of course.
And he's done things like Boogie Nights. He's the guy in the donut shop, that tries to take out the robber and ends up killing everybody.
Yeah. He's a guy that Russell Crowe beats the shit out of in LA Confidential at the beginning, who's beating up his wife. Yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, Alan Graff knows what he's.
I'm gonna have to watch that interview. Yeah, I'm gonna have to watch that. How long ago was that?
That's
a couple of months ago.
It's like Industry Interview 28 or something like that. They're all numbered now, so you can.
Yeah. So I think we can credit Alan Graff for probably most of the good action stuff in this movie.
Yeah.
So yeah, definitely, and I'm sure Mel Gibson had a big hand in also the shaping of the film as well. So
yeah.
Yeah, I mean, the final edit definitely feels. I'll tell you another scene that I do really like. When he goes to wait for the bus to turn up, and then Chris Klein, who he's predicted is going to be the most efficient officer, is the next person to meet him, and then gradually more people arrive.
Yeah, that's a nice moment.
That's a really nice scene. I like that scene.
Yeah, there's no dialogue in that.
No.
That's why it works. No dialogue.
Yeah.
That's a good thing.
Probably a second unit scene.
Maybe Randall was like, "Oh, that's got no dialogue. I'm not needed."
We're being a bit mean here, I think. The aerial unit staff in the film, that sequence with the helicopters going in, doing the dip down with the Hueys.
Yeah,
gotta say that's a brilliant piece of filmmaking. Cliff Flemyng directed that sequence, and he's got 177 additional crew credits, predominantly helicopter pilot stuff. Wow. Aerial coordinator on things like Matrix Resurrection, Spider-Man No Way Home, aerial coordinator for the new Dune film. So they clearly did actually use, I don't know whether that's drone stuff or whether they actually had a real helicopter for the ornithopter and then they CGI'd over the real one, maybe that's what
I think they did actually. I think they did actually do that. Yeah.
So that would explain why the movements of it are so realistic and stuff, I guess. Aerial coordinator on Avengers, Infinity War, and more important, Matt, that real favorite film of yours, Geostorm, or Planet of the Apes. And for those people watching at home, I may have been joking.
Pretty much any film that's got Gerard Butler is a pass for me.
Jupiter Ascending, that's an interesting sci-fi movie that we should talk about at some point. I can tell Inside Man is relishing the prospect of planning about that film.
I think I'd rather push thumbtacks into the roof of my mouth than watch Jupiter Ascending.
I saw Jupiter Ascending in a cinema in Uganda, during which there were 2 power cuts. Yeah. But it's got my friend Nicky.
Well, lucky you had some power cuts. Good. Better than watching the movie.
Hey, I mean, that made the film more realistic for me. But Nicky Amuka was, I didn't hate that film. It was all right.
What one's that?
Jupiter Ascending. It was all right. It wasn't awful.
Oh, nah.
It was okay. At least it tried to be a bit different. At least it was an original script. It wasn't a Marvel sequel, and there were some interesting characters. There were some okay action scenes. It didn't really work. It didn't really hang together. I had a lot of problems shooting it. I'm pretty sure
it was just bad from the ground up.
Well, we're rabbit holing. Let's save Jupiter. Oh, there you go. Jupiter Ascending and Battlefield Earth. There you go.
Well, there you go. That's going to be a battle of the bad right there.
I think Battlefield Earth will still win. I think a harder one would be Jupiter Ascending and the last,
Matrix.
Milovich's ex-husband, French director,
Luc
Luc
Besson.
Besson, yeah.
The
What was that
last
called
Luc
again?
Besson sci-fi.
Valerian.
What was it
Valerian
called?
in the City of Lost Stars.
Valerian
or
and the City of Lost Stars and Jupiter.
something.
Doing the two of them would be interesting because they're
Yeah.
quite similar films.
Yeah. But then I'd have to watch them.
Similar, I know. Could you? Yeah. You don't have to buy the Blu-rays though.
my years are, I'm running out of life, and I don't know if I really want to spend it watching those films.
Well, all right. Well, if that's not comical enough, so we'll stick to sort of two slightly better films. We did do Patrick Bergin's Robin Hood. Don't forget.
Yeah.
So okay. So what else have we got to say about this film? Does anybody have any interesting stories apart from the fact that we forgot Alan Graff directed all the good stuff in it?
No, I'm afraid I don't have anything else.
No, I mean, what do you think of?
I liked Valerian. Don't hate me from Melvin Deacon.
I've never seen Valerian. I saw the trailer and just thought that's not for me. So,
Nick Glennie Smith's soundtrack. I mean, I wasn't.
I did like the soundtrack. I liked the soundtrack to When We Were Soldiers, and actually, I liked it more.
I can't remember it, to be honest. So it's a bit like
you've got that. It's got a Black Hawk Down vibe because when they swoop into the valley and the helicopters go down, you've got that kind of hum 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 hum. So it's that weird kind of almost like an Irish tune again.
Yeah, I think it is a Celtic.
There's a Celtic vibe piece, to it, and it's probably something unused from Braveheart, maybe. And then
I think he's an Englishman, isn't he? I think he's.
But he's an English composer. And then you've got the same bit with the. Clearly, Mel wasn't in charge of hiring him because he wouldn't have been English. And then you got the same bit where when they charge in slow motion in the fictional charge that never happened, same piece of music. But I think the music in the film on the whole is pretty decent. But it's not a big score. It's a score with some nice bits.
Yeah,
I think it's competent but not memorable.
I don't know anything else that Nick Glennie Smith has done.
He did The Rock. He was one of the three composers on The Rock.
Yeah, that's a good score. I like it.
And he, but it's hard to know which of Nick Glennie. I think Nick Glennie Smith did the main theme in The Rock. Because if you listen to his Man in the Iron Mask, it's almost identical.
So out of 10 for IMDb, We Were Soldiers. I'm going to go 7, maybe 7.5. I like Black Hawk Down slightly more than this movie. For me, I feel more like I'm seeing the battle through the eyes of the individual soldier.
Yeah.
In We Were Soldiers, I'm seeing the eyes of the battle through the respective commanders and officers.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, I mean, I much preferred all the Vietnamese army stuff, to be honest with you.
The Vietnamese scenes are great, and I'm so glad that they're in there.
Yeah, and they are good.
I'm glad the prologue is in there when the French got defeated. I think that's great. That scene's in there.
Yeah.
And it's well done. It's pretty brutal and well done. The guy gets shot in the throat, and all of that stuff. And then they kill all the people they take prisoner, and it's a sign of things to come. Because I really think there should be a new big budget Dien Bien Phu movie. I'd like to see that. And I've seen the one with Klaus Kinski in, and that's a very surreal film.
He was a very surreal man, wasn't he?
He was a very surreal man.
Jesus Christ, what a man!
Yeah.
What a mighty good man.
Not exactly. I don't know. So I'm 7.5 out of 10.
Okay, I'm gonna give this one a 6.5.
Oh, 6.5. A bit harsh. Yeah,
6.5.
I mean, I think
that's 2.5 points off for the scenes with the women in.
See, I mean, you're right. I mean, Black Hawk Down absolutely tramples this.
I would agree it's the winner. I definitely, of the two I've watched, Black Hawk Down probably 30 times. I've probably watched, including the time I saw it at the cinema, We Were Soldiers 4. 5.
I mean, you've got a master craftsman on one, and you've got a second time much more inexperienced director on the other. It's
you've got Matt's new best mate after this stream on the other one. By that I mean not.
I don't know what you think. I don't know what you think, but I found this a little bit sort of televisual. I thought it was very. It didn't feel particularly cinematic to me.
Yeah,
It's interesting that this
you're
film
right.
was
I
made,
agree.
the film was made slightly later than Black Hawk Down, only by a year or so.
About a year.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it feels like an action. It feels like a historic movie that could have been made in 1988.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's a day. It feels less modern than
whereas
that.
Black Hawk Down
And it's not because the guns are.
feels like a movie that could have been shot 2 years ago and just happens to have been a rare good film that was shot. 2
Yeah.
years ago.
Yes.
And this is the thing with period films. You know, you can have a period film that absolutely will not date, but then you'll have a period film like this that you know when it was made.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, 20 years from now, you'll never know when Black Hawk Down was made.
Yeah.
5 years after when we were soldiers, you know exactly when it was made.
Yeah.
You know, it's of its time.
Yes. It's just
I
something about it. Yeah.
Yeah, but I think it's with historical films, and I'm so glad that you actually picked these. I'm really, really pleased you picked these because I think they're two great examples of historical films that, you know, as you both said, you know, one was done extremely well, executed extremely well. The other one was almost kind of slightly painting by numbers for me.
Yeah.
And but I think because I think we're all quite into our history as well. You know, I know both of you are very much into your historical movies, and they need to be done right.
Yeah.
You know, not so many embellishments. I think it's incredibly important that a historical movie is done properly. Not just to say, for example, honor those people that were involved in a particular action, but it's to convey and communicate those particular events to generations to come. I mean, they have
Yeah.
to be accurate because otherwise we're going to have movies where, you know, so many liberties like what's that shit film U571.
Oh, haha.
You know,
Which has no historical basis. Yeah.
I'll
you
tell you
know, and
what, I'd love
it's
to do 2 submarine films.
oh well, I did one called Below. It was Darren Aronofsky.
Mate, I saw that. Jason Flemyng was on that.
Yeah.
Was that any good? Below?
No,
It could have been good. It was Chris Tahoy, wasn't it? David Tahoy, sorry.
Yeah.
Oh, David. Yeah, I don't like this
yeah.
stuff.
And that really much beloved actor by the crew, Jack Noseworthy, was on it, wasn't he?
Yeah. Yeah. But yeah, interesting. I mean, that was all over at well, what I did was over at Shepperton.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, U571. I mean, you have to be historically accurate. You know, you have to, because you know, I'm not saying that you have to, you know, that you're there as an educator, as a filmmaker, that you're there as an educator, but at least, you know, add something that's going to be historically accurate, where people don't.
Yeah.
It's nothing to do with those kind of nitpicky things like, oh, that's the wrong site on that.
I just think U571 should have been tonally more of a Dirty Dozen movie.
Yeah.
It had the plot of that kind of thing, and it would have been fine as that kind of film. No historical titles, all of that. No, this mission did this at the end of the film. Should have just been, you know, here's a load of guys, we're going on a mission.
Yeah.
This is a work of fiction. However, various missions like this were undertaken in World War II.
Yeah.
That's all you would have needed at the beginning.
Yeah, you just don't sell it. Don't sell it as what it's not. You know,
because
just like
the scene where they take over the sub. That's a great sequence. It's really well done. And then the other sub turns up. John Bon Jovi basically gets decapitated by a flying hatch. That happened so quickly. I didn't even realize he'd been killed until I watched it again. And I went to the cinema and saw that movie with my dad.
I saw that. I actually like you.
Me and my dad saw that together. And
I think that's actually a good. I like U571 as a movie, but it's not because as just an experience of a movie, it's fine.
Yeah, as a
horror
historical, it's okay.
But as historical, it's like, are you kidding me?
Yeah.
So funny Jack Noseworthy story, much beloved actor, in speech marks. A friend of mine was in the film, and they caught a cab together. I think they were shooting out in Malta for some of the stuff in the tank and stuff like that.
Yeah,
and he was
that's
in
right.
the
It's Malta.
he was in the scene with the Italian frigate. You know that the submarine sinks. They had some sort of Italian frigate on loan or something from the Italian Navy.
Yeah.
It might have been the Greek Navy. I don't know, but it looked like an old German ship. And so the car comes to pick him up, and he's in the same car with Jack Noseworthy. So my friend's like, "So, man, how many times did you have to audition to get the part for the film?" What makes you think I had to audition, man? That was the end of the conversation they had in the car.
Yeah.
Oh,
Well, that's
nice.
because Jack Noseworthy gets a role in every single one of Jonathan Mostow's films.
Yeah. And not many other films.
That's right. That's because he's only in Jonathan Mostow films.
And actually, me and Matt are both a massive fan of the movie Breakdown with Kurt Russell, aren't we?
I love that film.
I love that film.
It's a fantastic movie.
That's a good Jack Noseworthy film, but it is a David Mustow film. Now, was it David Twohoy or David Mustow that directed U571?
Mustow. Jonathan Mustow did it.
Jonathan Mustow. David Twohoy, different director. David Twohoy directed Below, though, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's a shoddy filmmaker, that David Twohoy. I don't like him.
Yeah.
I think his work is just really bad.
I have a feeling he's probably somebody who's been a bit Albert Pooned in the film industry, i.e. there might have been a great concept and he got to script and it's like, yeah, mate, you don't have $5 million now, you've got $2 million. I have a feeling he may have had that experience. I don't know.
So, Albert, is this Sword and the...
Yeah.
Is it Sword and Sorcery?
That happened to Albert on about 10 of his movies. He would turn up expecting budget to be $7 million.
Yeah.
Day one of filming, $3.5 million. You've got to lose 11 days filming. You've got to lose 5 scenes. That happened to him on that happened to him on almost every Cannon movie he did.
Yeah, because he recently passed away, didn't he?
He did, and he was a good friend of mine. Passed away last year.
Oh, was he really?
Was a good friend of mine, and I met him in the last years of his life. I had a couple of phone calls with him, and I recorded him a really powerful message on YouTube, which his wife played to him about a week before he passed away.
Oh, really?
His wife said it made him cry, but in the right way. Because it was a very impassioned message about, remember your life has value. You took me to amazing worlds. You took me on adventures. You took me to planets. You did this. You did that. Yada. Made it very Oscar award winning because I wanted it to really hit him.
But do you know that's that's quite a special thing to have said to somebody that you admire, and I think some people might sort of dismiss that kind of thing. However, I think
I did it.
Filmmakers do
no one
that.
else has seen the video. It was private, purely for him. I've talked about it a couple of times,
but this is what filmmakers do. I mean, we would, I would love to be able to sit down with all of those filmmakers that are no longer with us, and have these conversations with all these amazing people like David Lean, and love to explain to him what he's done for me.
I watched Passage to India not that long ago, actually.
Oh, did you? I haven't seen that for years.
Well, I was forced to watch that at school, and it was like, fuck me, this is boring. Lots of people talking.
Yeah.
And Jewel in the Crown was a big thing.
Of course,
back in that time.
Yeah.
Everyone's parents were watching, and that you went out of your way not to watch.
Yeah.
And then, as a filmmaker, you're a bit older. You go back and you look at things like Passage to India. You're not the kid that's waiting for the James Bond action scene with many jumpsuits. That's actually not going to happen in the movie. And then you're looking at the wide expanse of the shots, the big camera angles that Lean loved. He loved those big epic shots with lots of something in the foreground, something behind it. Richard Attenborough, very similar kind of filmmaker.
Yeah.
They were very similar in their styles. A lot of lock-offs and not a lot of movement, letting the picture tell the story. Just a very expansive.
I mean, what an amazing filmmaker! But as I say, I think to have been able to have said what you said Talbot Poon. I think it is, you know, I think it's a lovely thing to do, a lovely thing to be able to do.
So I think it's just I had a chance to tell a filmmaker the impact he had on my life, and look, Albert Poon would be the first person to admit that he probably wasn't happy with 75% of the films he made, but he tried his best to create something with what he was given. And there were definitely times when he succeeded and definitely times when he didn't. But even with some of his kind of messy misses, like a Radioactive Dreams, which actually is a much beloved movie, there's a hell of a lot of interesting shit going on in that film. And you just think, and that was another movie. That was another movie he told me about, because I was like, Radioactive Dreams, dude, that felt so great. Certain scenes were really epic, and you know, you had a big set, and then suddenly I got into the film started, and it felt very small. And he said, yeah, because I had to fucking cut everything.
Wow.
You know, after we'd done 3 days filming.
I know how he feels.
Yeah,
but
Matt is singing from the same song sheet right now. So, you know, he went through that a lot, and he made a lot of movies for not a lot of money. And when you think
these, do you know that's exactly the kind of filmmaker that I admire more than any.
No,
You know what I mean?
I compare a film like The Sword and the Sorcerer, which I think had a budget of about $3 million.
Wow.
And it hasn't got massive battle scenes, but you feel like there have been big battles.
Yeah.
And the script is very clever, and the characters, cartoonish though they are very big and very well defined by really great actors who are great at playing the roles to the appropriate level. Richard Lynch, master of bad guys in B movies. You watch a film like a Marvel film with all the heavy CGI, and yeah, some of the scripts for some of the early Marvel stuff, especially, are really good. But now it's all just fucking the same. And I look at what he did with 3 million. I look at what they've done with a budget of somewhere between 2 and 300 million, and I'm like, fuck off. Yeah. That's the best film you can make for that money. I know why that is, because 50 million of that has gone on all the producers that are in the credits at the beginning. And then another 100 million of that has gone on your above the line cast.
Yep.
And, you know, and then the rest of it's on the production. So it's not really a 400 million pound film or 300 million pound film. It's really a 50 million pound film with a very small number of people getting $150 million between them. Then that money's not on the screen apart from in terms of names in billing.
Absolutely spot on.
Yeah.
So, the sad reality of the industry is that's exactly what's going on.
This is why
you make a $300 million film, right, with no names in it, and 2 producers with a strong script, spend all the money on the screen. Wow, I'd love to see that movie.
Yeah.
Didn't they try? Isn't that what Amazon Rings of Power was? They got no name cast, no name anybody who's behind it, nobody who really means anything. They spent $1 billion on it. No one watches it. It's a piece of garbage.
But it was made by a committee. The script was changed God knows how many times.
Yeah, made by a committee with an agenda.
Yeah, it wasn't made by a visionary or someone with a passionate idea.
Yeah,
or anyone who gave a shit about the material.
People skimming the cream off of an existing IP and trying to ride a dead horse.
Yeah,
you know, and it could have been good. It could have been great. It could have been amazing.
When you've got the producers or the showrunners saying, you know, right off the bat, you know, we respect the source material, but you know, we're just going to kind of do our own thing, really.
Yeah.
You know, you think,
then you don't.
No, and then there's no respect shown at all, and then they wonder why everyone gets so upset, and then why is this? I guess everyone's racist.
I had a great idea for a Lord of the Rings TV show. I came up with my own plot and everything. I talked about it on Drinkers channel, actually. And I said that my story would have been not 1,000 years before or whatever. It would have been about 50 years before the events in the Fellowship of the Ring.
Yeah.
And it would have been told from the point of view of one of the races in the south, either the Haradrim or one of those. And the storyline would be about the guy who gets killed by Faramir's men, who falls off the elephant, and he's looking at his body and he says, I wonder who this soldier was, where he came from, why he ended up fighting here. That's the opening scene. And then it's like 30 years earlier, and we see his family and him being born. And then the whole show is about that kid up to that moment and why that family joined the bad guys. How did they get corrupted? Who were the unwise men that came and whispered in the king's ear and said, "You've got to fight the white men in the north. You've got to back the power and the all-seeing eye because he's our Lord." Why? Well, because he's going to give us no end of riches. I want to see how those southern tribes got corrupted into fighting for the wrong side. That would be a great story that's not been told. And then you could add all these other races. You would have had different. I'm sure there was great female characters to be had there, and it all would have fitted in, and it would have been great. And I would love to write that script if I could have the rights. I would write that.
But the unfortunate thing is that these both mainstream TV and streaming services, they're not really that into originality.
No, I don't think they're into originality at all,
or intelligence.
I think they abhor it. They're just like no, let's just remake. Let's just and now. What's the last thing I heard? Oh, let's make a TV show of Seven.
Oh God! I think they did it, didn't they?
No, they're gonna. They're making a TV show of Seven. It's like you're going to take a perfect Fincher movie, and you think you're going to make a television series that's worthy. Why do you need? You have Seven. You don't need that story told any better.
Not everything is a cash cow. What's wrong with these people? What is wrong with these people?
Because they think that Seven is a name that they know, therefore it's an IP that can. It's gotten to levels of stupidity I've never thought we'd reach.
First of all, who suggests these ideas? But the worst thing is,
they need to be hit in the head with a spoon.
Who on earth okays them? Who sits there and sits there with their both thumbs up in these boardrooms and says, "Yeah, this is great. We're gonna do this.
That? You're gonna do a TV show of Seven? That's brilliant. I love it. Spin-off.
Let's do it, man.
Let's do it. Oh, I see that, and let's change it up. Let's put. It's not Morgan Freeman. It's gonna be some other woman, and then we're gonna make the other character gay, and then we'll have the other. What's going on?
Hey Matt, that wasn't a bad American accent, man. Maybe you should do more acting. Yeah, I mean, I saw like one episode of the True Lies TV show because, of course, that was originally going to be a series of movies, but they just couldn't make it work. And actually, I thought, True Lies is that world as a TV show could be interesting. Could be interesting. They cast two of the most blandest, fucking banal actors on the planet. Might not be the fault of the actors because it all starts with the script, to be fair.
Of course it does. Absolutely.
But they are just boring to watch and look at, and the script is boring. And
I mean, True Lies worked because it was Arnold, and it was leaning into what Arnold brought to those movies, which was that winking at the camera action movies of the 80s. Like it was totally leaning into a genre. And
what could have worked is True Lies world, Arnold taking over the agency, assuming the role that was played by
Charlton Heston.
Charlton Heston, right. Have the same setup, maybe have Tom Arnold come in as a cameo. Maybe have a couple of the actors that are still alive come in and do cameos that were originally in the movie. Have Jamie Lee Curtis come and do a little cameo. Maybe she's in charge of the women's division. You've got women character, secret agents there. That would have worked. That could have been interesting. That could have been fun.
And lean into the same kind of comedy. And it just, I saw the trailer for that True Lies thing, and I couldn't believe what I was seeing. And again, I couldn't. The dialogue was so bad. It was like watching like a local theater, like a little country theater, trying to do True Lies or something, and you're like, "What? This is awful."
But it does. I think both of you have actually hit the nail on the head throughout this stream, and that is that the blame really squarely lies at the feet of the executives, the people that actually start the ball rolling.
But far more than
for the most part. For the most part, I think that particularly with TV, it absolutely 100% is with the TV executives. The directors have very little say, if not no say. The writers have to be told what they're going to be writing. They are told, you are going to write this, and you're going to write it the way we want you to write it.
Absolutely.
And of course, the actors, they need work, so you can't blame the actors.
No.
No,
it firmly lies with the executives who have no ability to they have no ability to assess anything that's put in front of them and have to know, is what I'm reading gonna work or be good? And so all they can do is go reach back to the past and go, well, that was True Lies was good, Seven was good, do that. And that's all they can do, because if anyone put an original script across their desk, number one, they'd have to read it, and number two, they'd have to use their own brain to figure out if it was good or not, but they have no way to discern it.
Matt, good news. I found a new movie for you.
Oh, God.
Space Pups. You are a dog lover, so, maybe...
I am a dog lover, but I don't like dog movies. I get all the dog movies I want on Instagram, which are just
actually,
people,
although they're pretty cute.
Which are being people at home just making their dogs do silly things and recording them do silly things. That's the only dog movie you need.
Let's find out about this movie. Two young children and their parents help a trio of aliens transformed as friendly dogs. So they're not even real dogs; they're aliens pretending to be dogs. Escape the clutches of local UFO hunter as they repair their space.
Of course, we've all got one of those.
Yeah,
we've all got a local UFO hunter.
We've all got a local UFO hunter. My God, that kid looked annoying.
I just find it frustrating that these people making this movie have a bigger budget than I've ever used before.
I'm going to guess that probably. I mean, look, there's my second script was called Silence is Golden and was about a UFO crash and a load of teenagers disappearing, and it was all like Men in Black, and not like the Men in Black movies, like the Men in Black were in the film, and they were they were going around doing the cleanup, and they were pretty sinister, and it was a pretty cool. Oh, look, there's some Men in Black. Talk of the devil. So they got Men.
They're bringing out all the cliches.
Oh, look, there's the dog doing the Twitter, and we've got the young girl kid who befriends them, of course, and well, Space Pups, man. I think we may have to do a stream about it.
I don't know. Is it Battlefield Earth and Space Pups?
Oh, I don't know, man.
I think Space Pups would win.
But then there's always that Disney movie, The Cat from Outer Space, isn't there?
I quite liked that when I was a kid. What do we have lined up for next week, Matt? I don't think we've picked something yet.
I don't think we've settled on anything. So we'll have to. I think we'll have to. That'll be a surprise for everyone what we pick next week, because I think we've.
Well, I got to set up the stream, so it's not going to be that much of a surprise. I'll tell you what we had written down. So the possibles we had were The Game and Fight Club.
Oh yeah.
Interesting combo. I need to watch them both again. I haven't seen Fight Club since I saw it at the cinema, and
oh God,
I hate to surprise you all, I didn't like it.
Oh, mate, get off your ass and watch Fight Club again.
I'm the only person I know who didn't like it, and I feel like when I watch it again, I will like it. I was a lot younger when I saw it.
First time I watched Fight Club, I didn't like it, but I gave it another spin because it stuck in my mind, and now I freaking love it. And I don't know how many times I've seen it.
We've said Three Musketeers and Another Musketeers. Inside Man, another one that me and Matt are doing is we're doing top 5 fantasy films. So
what? We should do let's do the fantasy films. Why don't we do fantasy films next week?
But top 5 fantasy films. But Inside Man, if you want to take part before 1990. So you can include the year 1990.
Right. So we can't include Lord of the Rings.
Can't include Lord of the Rings. Yeah. So it's all going to be stuff like Krull, Conan,
Orc the Slayer.
We can include stuff that's got one. I will allow stuff that's 1 foot in sci-fi but 1 foot firmly in fantasy.
Yeah. Does that include Star Wars?
No, because that's firmly space opera and sci-fi. But Krull is 1 foot fantasy, 1 foot sci-fi for sure, because it takes place on another world, but it's predominantly a fantasy film. Yeah, I knew Hawk the Slayer.
So anything south of 1990.
South of 1990. I'll include the year 1990 as well. Yeah.
All right.
So,
Let's do that next week because I think I've got some interesting choices.
Can you create a poster for that top 5 and just do like a sort of an amalgamation of heads and things from the fantasy movies of that era?
Yeah, I'll set something together.
I can already think of 3 films. I don't want to say what they are. We're not going to reveal our lists to each other until we do it on the live stream.
Yeah, good. Yeah,
but I can already think of 3 films that I'm sure are going to be on my list. One of which we've mentioned in this stream already.
I think I've got mine already. I think I've got my 5.
Gary's got all 5.
Yeah.
Let's do it now. That'd be good next week. Let's do the.
That's a good one. That's a good one.
Now, Gary Bolter from Outcasts Australia, who clearly has been glued to the stream since his last comment, definitely hasn't taken any work in that interim period, has said Lord of the Rings 1970 cartoon feature film, Ralph Bakshi. We'll accept that as a choice.
Of course, that was made prior to 1990, and it is technically fantasy, and it is a film.
So we'll accept animations predominantly in the fantasy era. So you could also include Disney's The Black Cauldron.
Black Cauldron.
Also include the original animated The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe, which is a personal favourite of mine.
Yeah, that's a bit of an odd one. That Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe, because they start off with English accents and then they turn American.
No, you're wrong. There are 2 recordings of it. They dubbed the kids with American accents for the American release, and the American release was the one that was annoyingly released in the late 80s, early 1990s on DVD. The American one is also the one that's predominantly on YouTube, which you can find for free. However, I have found clips of the British one. All the kids have British accents. The Beaver has a British accent. The Beaver has an American accent in the American one. So he's Arthur Lowe in the British one. So that's
really?
They recast it and they re-recorded it for the American audiences.
That's really odd because I've got an old DVD, which I.
If the kids turn to America halfway through, it means they use 2 different sections of print.
Yeah, they
DVD and they've mixed up the 2 copies.
Yeah, it's really odd because
then you've got a really unique DVD of that.
It's the oddest thing. It's so odd because they start off English, and they get to a certain point in the movie, and all
suddenly
of a sudden
they're all
American.
talking American accents.
It's bizarre. Yeah. It's utterly bizarre.
And they've got really annoying American accents that just don't work for those characters. That could be included. I mean, we can even include Jason and the Argonauts. I have a feeling that might be on my list. I mean, great. So you've got all the Ray Harryhausens. Now it gets a bit harder now. You can only have 5.
Yeah.
You only have 5.
We'll do a section. We'll do a section before we do our 5. We'll do near misses or special mentions that you wanted to get on the 5, but you couldn't fit them on.
Kind of honourable mentions.
Honourable mentions. Yeah, for sure. Obviously, what's it called? Deathstalker and Deathstalker 2, obvious honourable mentions on anyone's list.
Yeah.
Wizards of the Lost Kingdom, anyone? I don't know if you remember, but those were the movies that they all came out as part of the 80s boom. They always had very cool covers. I mean, we'll talk about this more next week, but I'm going to have to show a couple of these now. I'm going to show the cover for Wizards of the Lost Kingdom. And, I mean, I remember that the video shop near me had a big, what do you call, standee in the window.
Yeah.
Wizards of the Lost Kingdom. And it was one of those things that was like, oh, yeah, God, man, that looks cool. And at that time, you were, as a kid, you were dying for that kind of content. You were, oh, there it is. This is the video cover. This is the standee. And it's great artwork. Let me show you. Great artwork. Matt, you might remember seeing this as a video. And if you then remember that you rented it, you'll remember why you regretted it. But the cover art was great for this. Really, really, really good. And it looked like this big, impressive world. And it wasn't a B movie. It's like a C budget movie.
That looks like a Skeksis in the top corner.
Yeah, doesn't appear in the film looking anything like that. But the funny
I
thing
think
is,
I remember seeing this in the video store, but I never watched it.
looks
When
like
it was
Luke
painted,
Skywalker. Looks like Luke
I know.
Skywalker if you look on the back of the...
One of the things that was always an indicator to me that if the artwork had a painted picture and not photographs, it usually there was a problem. Or if you turned the back over and you saw the photos from the film, they didn't look anywhere near as impressive as the painted art.
They looked all a bit grainy and shit.
Yeah, and you're like, okay, this is not living up to the promise of its poster.
Yeah. Well, Wizards of the Lost Kingdom and Deathstalker and Deathstalker 2 all featured the same set and the same sequence with the same extras. And then it's funny because at one point there's like a big scene with them and you can hear that they've dubbed over the extras with just like a general backing track. And it's not even done properly. There's all these people going, hit him, hit him, hit him, go on, hit him. And it just sounds really bad.
Well, it's not a Roger Corman production, is it?
I can't remember if it's part of the Italian ones that came out around that time.
Those are the posters I remember. The Deathstalker. It's like nothing like that.
No, I know. That monster is in the film for about 2 minutes and it's a shit makeup job. It looks like someone's cut off a boar's head and stuck it on their head.
Yeah.
But there's this castle in the movie and it's literally just like 2 towers that are clearly held up by a bit of scaffold. Now, hang on. There's a lot of pictures here. There's the monster from that film, right?
Wow.
Yeah. Now, these are the extras that are doing all the hit him thing. There's got to be a shot of that castle, please. You want to see this castle. Those and the warriors of this time always had those naff haircuts. But I did like Beastmaster. That's a good movie.
I never saw Beastmaster.
Yeah,
Beastmaster. Mate, that's a great film. Beastmaster. There you go. There's that monster again. Sorry, go on. Can you include what?
Can we include something like Warlords of Atlantis that we spoke about the other?
Absolutely, that's definitely one foot in fantasy. You can include. I would say you could probably include 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea, maybe.
Yeah. That's
borderline because it's not really. It is kind of fantasy.
It's fantastical. I wouldn't say it's fantasy.
It's fantastical. Yeah, I mean, maybe not that one. But yeah,
if it had a creature that doesn't exist.
There you go. There's the castle set. That castle set appears in all of these films.
Right. They must have they must have built it, and then they just were like, well, we've built it. Let's keep using it.
I think they shot a whole load of second unit footage that just keeps getting edited into these movies. But I think they did use the set again and again and again. And there is a Deathstalker 2, and I believe there is also a Deathstalker 3.
Yeah, they just never stopped making. They'd always turn up in those video stores, and no one ever rented them. I remember working, and no one ever rented them.
Unfortunately, I did. I rented anything that looked like a fantasy, sword and sandals. Thought, maybe this will be the film that's going to be the Lord of the Rings, because we all kind of wanted to see a proper Lord of the Rings movie. And
actually, talking of sword and sandals, when we spoke the other day, you kind of put a little bit of a thing in my head about sword and sandals when I think we were talking about Spartacus.
We are doing a Spartacus stream, and Matt is making a poster for that as we speak. We're going to do 2 actually inside Man. We're going to do a review of Spartacus season 1. And we're going to do a Spartacus 1 and 2 episode watch party as well.
Ooh,
so we're going to watch the pilot and the second episode.
Yeah.
Two streams I knew you'd be up for. Matt, not a big fan of the Spartacus. I mean, too many willies in it for him. So he just goes into
too many guys with big muscles, and I don't have any. I feel bad about myself.
Yeah, there's a lot of big wobbling penises, and Matt's a small guy. So
I can handle the wobbling penises. I just feel so insecure because these guys have got shoulders that are as big as my ass.
I'm going to edit that line into a video with you saying I can handle wobbling penises.
I can handle wobbling penises.
You're right. This was a Roger Corman movie. Thank you, Greg Moss. It was actually shot at Ares Studios in Buenos Aires. So all the Deathstalker movies and Wizards of Warriors must have been filmed there because they all use these locations.
Wait a minute, but were they Corman films though?
No, they were caught. It was an international co-production of Argentina and the United States. It was the first of 4 films about the Deathstalker character and his adventures, and the first of 10 films that Roger Corman produced in Argentina in the 1980s.
Right. So he was using the Corman model. Yeah.
Well, no, Corman produced it. It was a co-production with Argentina.
Yeah, he just brought that model to Argentina. Yeah.
Yeah, and I guess because you could make the money go a lot further there. I forgot that Millennium Films was started by Corman because they made Space Raiders, which of course used the footage from Battle Beyond the Stars for about the 50th time. Deathstalker was Millennium. Warrior and the Sorceress. That was another one of theirs that they did. Barbarian Queen, Wheels of Fire. Actually, no, I quite liked Wheels of Fire because we definitely need to do a apocalypse films of the wasteland. We need to do like
Damnation Alley.
Yeah, I love Damnation Alley.
Yeah.
That's a great story.
Just Mad Max
Great
ripoff.
score. Jerry Goldsmith's score. Yeah.
But it's a good film. It's got a good plot.
Yeah.
Good story. God, I quite liked it. There's a lot of Mad Max rip-offs. Although there's so many that came out between like 83 and I would say 93. That whole era of like Battle Truck. Remember Battle Truck? That was Australian. And they got 2 like 50 caliber machine guns in the side of it, and I quite liked that film when I first saw it. Rented it years later. Was less impressed. But
I think back then there was still a lot of, like today, a lot of trash being made, and we call it now direct to streaming, don't we?
Yeah.
Back then it was direct to video.
Yeah.
I think we used to call it straight to tape over.
Yeah, straight to tape over.
Straight to tape over. Did any of you see Barbarian Queen? Because I can't remember watching it, but I definitely remember the cover.
No, I didn't watch any of that stuff. It always looked tacky and crappy, so I just never bothered.
But of course, the biggest budget fantasy film within the era that we're concerned with our top 5 with next week, the biggest budget of the lot would be Willow within that time.
Yeah,
and that was the one that probably got closest to kind of giving me the movie I wanted. However, this one gave me the poster that I wanted for my film. There we go. I mean, Barbarian Queen. Obviously, all barbarian warriors dress practically to go into combat. All that's required is a sharp, pointy stick and the smallest thong possible.
Wasn't this called Amazons? I thought this.
I think it was.
It was called Amazon. The Amazon Women of the something or other. I remember this from the video store, and I think it was called. The Amazons warrior. Or something. Yeah.
Sword-wielding warrior Athema and a few companions embark on a life or death mission to liberate her people from the clutches of a brutal monarch who destroyed her village and enslaved her people. I mean, sounds potentially like it's a good film. Potentially.
It just looks like it's porn without the porn.
I think the poster is purely aimed at selling. This is Shout Factory have re-released this Barbarian Queen. What were you asking, Matt? You had who directed it?
No. I was answering. I was answering a question about who directed the Christopher Columbus film, and it was John Glenn.
John Glenn.
More importantly, Hector Oliveira, who is still alive, born in 31, Buenos Aires, Argentina.
Wow.
He's produced 46 movies. He's directed 27. I'm going to guess that he's the Roger Corman of
no doubt
Argentina. He's
Amazon. See, Amazon.
There you go.
Producer.
So
I knew it was called
that's
Amazon.
Probably the Argentinian. He did Deathstalker 2, so that was part of the sort of whole same thing. Warrior and the Sorceress, Deathstalker. See, there they all are. I'm not seeing Wizards.
Great. Thank you for your great contribution to cinema, Mr. What's his name? Hector
Oliveira.
Yeah. Great contribution.
There's
to
a
cinema.
place for these films, though, isn't there? In a kind of kit.
You're absolutely
Not
right.
in my life. There's not.
No, I'm
But-
not saying that they deserve to be in your Blu-ray collection, but these were the kind of. There were a lot of Roger Cormans that were making movies not just to bang out any old shit that people wanted to watch, but they found a market for like cheap and cheerful beer and pretzel movies. Yeah, let's just watch this with the blokes on a Friday night.
Well, it's kind of the exploitation market, isn't it? It's kind of.
Australia had it as well.
I think,
the exploitation movies, things like Turkey Shoot and
I think within that milieu of stuff, I think there are some gems to be found, particularly in the apocalyptic sort of post.
Yeah, there's so many great post-apocalyptic.
Occasionally you will, but that's the thing. Like, you throw enough shit at a wall, eventually something's going to stick.
Well, I think sometimes they just happen to, for whatever reason, they made a bit more of an effort with one film or another. There was a Mad Max.
Or you actually get a genuinely good filmmaker who breaks through the Corman world.
It's cutting their teeth on these kind of movies. And,
that's right.
And then, we have the likes of James Cameron.
That's right. A lot of good people. Joe Dante came out of the Corman.
Joe Dante, yeah.
A lot of good people came out of Corman. You're not going to think it, but I thought this movie was really good. Wheels of Fire. I've never seen this poster. I'm going to tell you now, but this is one of the many Mad Max ripoffs, and I really liked this one. Just thought it was just a cut. That's the poster that was on the video shop. I just thought it was a cut above. The car in it was really cool.
I swear they make these posters and sell it on the poster, and then they just have to try to make the movie match the poster.
Well, I mean, it's funny.
Sounds like Charlie Kaufman.
I'm pretty sure concept posters were probably done. This went Medusa Home Video, which I'm sure Inside Man would remember.
God, yeah.
They had really good artists for their posters,
and
some of their films were not terrible. They picked up a lot of B-movie schlock, but there were a couple of
that's a great How are your films? They're not terrible
because but the time that Medusa Video was going, New Line Cinema, who course went big.
That's it. New Line, Full Moon, Empire.
New Line were at their level at the time, and they were producing very similar movies. B-movie, low-grade sci-fi.
I mean, Nightmare on Elm Street. I mean, that was New Line. That was New Line, yeah.
New Line. And The Mask was being developed as a horror film, but then they turned it into a comedy.
Jim Carrey's influence, I want to say on that one.
No doubt.
I'm just wondering if there's some glorious look at that Blu-ray double bill. I'm not familiar with Raiders of the Sun. Has anyone seen that? Should I buy that Blu-ray combo?
No. I have not seen it. I never will.
Well, I don't hate Wheels of Fire, Matt. That might be a possible. There's our hero in Wheels of Fire.
He's got a lot of charisma. Just that photo, I can tell.
Check out those leather pants. These are some of the bad guys. Yep, there he is again. But I didn't hate this film. It had they did a good job with the script. There was some cool world building. There was like different gangs, and it was kind of well done for what it was. Some good stunts, It didn't all feel just like really naff. Felt like the person that directed it made a bit of an effort with it.
If I'm honest, I think I got more respect for people like Charlie Kaufman and Jason Blum and Roger Corman and the like than I have for anybody at the Disney Corporation.
Yeah,
they even had a barrage of artillery in the film. There you go.
Because Disney are just so, wasteful and so up their own asses in thinking that they know better. At least you could tell that these guys were out there in the mud trying to make something work, and probably believed in themselves. And whereas Disney lives in I swear Hollywood has become an echo chamber.
Yeah.
And they're living in an echo chamber now, almost like a cult, where everything they think they're doing and everything they're producing and saying is brilliant, and they're all feeding off this echo chamber of each other. And we out in the world are all looking in going, you guys are all crazy and this stuff's all crap. But and then, of course, when they hear our feedback and they realize the box office numbers aren't coming in, everyone's criticizing the movie, they don't like it, they turn around and have to say, well, clearly you guys are all the problem. But the audience is, everyone now is a sexist, racist troll, and because you don't like what we're making. And so, yeah, they really are. It really has become a bit of a Hollywood cult.
They're self-congratulatory.
Yes.
They're pious. It's the piety that I can't get my, it makes me want to vomit. I can't stand that kind of, that faux humility that they feel that they have. And, we're humble people, really, but
we all live in mansions, but we're telling everybody who live in poverty how they should be living their lives.
Blimey, guys, I just realized we've now been streaming for 3 hours. So
I've got to get on with I do have to get on with my day. I have a lot of
let's wrap it up.
Stuff to do. So
guys, it's been great. I love doing these. These are always really
terrific.
Good fun.
Really terrific.
So same time next week, probably go slightly early, go for the 11:30 again. 15 minutes.
Yeah, and we'll do the
top five
fantasy films.
Top five fantasy.
Yeah.
Top five fantasy of the prior to 1990.
Yeah. So including 1990 and below. So you can have a film that was released in 1990 but not 1991. So top 5, couple of special honourable mentions that didn't quite make the list. Poster from you, Matt, as and when you can, and then I'll create the stream before I go to bed now, actually. And that would be great. So listen, thanks to the people that stuck around for the whole thing. I know people came and went and all the rest of it. We really went down a rabbit hole at the end with a load of random shit, but it's quite good fun. I was due to do a weekly roundup tomorrow. I probably won't do that, so I don't have to rush back from the theatre, because I think I've got a lot of guests coming tomorrow. We kind of touched on some stuff. I think I'm probably off now the channel until next week, and next week is the beginning of what I'm going to call the big push. So I'm going to be streaming at least 3 times a week from next week onwards. So I'll be doing Tuesday with Matt. We'll probably do our Spartacus thing probably within that week, Inside Man. So I'll talk to you about when that can happen. You need to get some kind of profile picture that's Spartacus-like that you can put up for the stream, so that we have some weird thing to look at.
Yeah.
Everybody,
something wobbly, I think, something nice and wobbly.
Everybody watching, thanks very much for attending and tuning in. Don't forget to check out the links for Matt's work. Don't forget to check out the links for my new book, 1988, that's now on Amazon. If you come into the play in Highgate, come and say hi. I'll be there every night because I'm in it. So, you know, can't really get away. And I'll see you all again real soon.
Ciao for now.